Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke, so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Welcome, everyone. I know it's been a while. Please let me know how the volume is because I know it's been a while and there was like some little updates that happened and I had to reconnect my mic to the OBS. So just let me know if you can hear me or if you can hear me too much. So far in the sandbox, we have MIDI Doctors, the Anti-Corporatists, Looney Tunes 9000. When more people show up, I have, I'll plug your thing that's coming up tomorrow. Lilet Cook is also in the sandbox. Z-Myth also there. I don't think I missed anyone. Did I miss anyone? I hope I didn't miss anyone. I'm in the sandbox. Okay, got some all clears with my sounds. Okay. It's been a while, hasn't it? Gee, I wonder what's been going on. I watched the debate last night, the American debate, and I don't want to bombard people with, what happened, because if you watched it, you saw what kind of train wreck it was. And, sitting here as a Canadian, I was just kind of like, for once, I'm glad that train wreck was in Canada. It's nice. It was nice to just kind of, enjoy the shit show that wasn't the shit show up here for a change, just for a little bit anyway. It is like I don't want to make light of it because the absolute horror and the consequences of either of those two people becoming president of the United States just kind of blows my mind. Like in Canada, though, we have our own problems where we have the Conservatives and the Liberal government, and they're both horrendous candidates and a hell of a lot more competent than either of the candidates down south. So, take some, lose some. I don't know. Okay, so what has everyone been up to? I know I've been away from here a bit, and I'm not even been chopping up my videos too much lately. For one thing, it's a lot of work for 100 views on a clip that I post. But also, I've been working on a secret project. Some of you already know. I joined this online thing. It's an annual thing to kind of encourage creative minds and get people writing and stuff, where you get to select of this list of book covers that are completely made up with completely made up titles and completely made up author names. And based on it, you have to write a story. Minimum 10,000 words, no maximum. And there's a certain amount of time and everything put into it. There's a deadline. But the thing is I can't tell you anything about the book right now because it's kind of like a friendly competition. So luckily I don't pay anything to go into this. And it's basically seeing who can do the best from scratch. So no one's allowed to say what book it is. I can't advertise it on my networks, that sort of thing. I have to make up stuff for this new author name and try to advertise it through that if I so do wish. It will be going up on Amazon, so it is potential, I can make maybe $5 a year on it or something. But once the competition is all said and done, I can tell you about it. But basically, this month, I've written a novel. I'm not quite done the first draft yet, though. And it's pretty much all that has been consuming me all the time. It's all I want to work on. Even now, as I'm staring into the camera, it's in the back of my mind, kind of going over, oh, should I do this? Or should I add this? Or what about this? How about this language change there? Or should... It's always there. That's all I want to work on is this book. I'm just kind of lost in the world of it. Part of it is I have an extraordinarily vivid imagination. Like I can see these things like I'm on a holodeck. And it's very interesting because a character will just kind of pop in my head and I don't, as soon as the character is there, like their look, their attitude, their name, everything just kind of pops in my head. The room they're in, I don't need to organize it. It's like the instant I say, okay, they're in an office. I can picture an office, but it's not an office I've been in before. It's an office specific to this story. And there'll be elements within the rooms or the characters that I usually end up eventually using. Like there are things in the story that just kind of magically happen. So one of the tricks is now that I'm almost done the first draft, I'll have to go back. Well, there's going to be a lot of re-edits and stuff like that. Because as the characters develop more, I closed off certain ends, or there's something I should say earlier to make sense of something in the future and that sort of thing. So basically, yes, I wrote a novel in about a month, almost a novel, but it will be written in under a month. The first draft. Lilac Cook, I'm reading about the Columbia University settlement. Is that the first story you are leading with? No, it is not. I do have a story about a university encampment, but it's up here in Canada. One that I'm particularly close to that I will be talking about. Let's see. Yeah. Lilac Cook is asking how many authors are involved with this. I don't know. Up to 50, because that's how many book covers were available. So up to 50 people have signed up for this. And it's a little funny, the novel that or the cover that I ended up doing. I was like, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Like, this is so, I don't know what I'm doing with this, because ADHD, I was a day late getting in my ranking, because you rank which one is your favorite and so on and so forth. And then they try to duel them out so that you get your highest ranking one, depending on what other people want and that sort of thing. And I was a day late, and I was actually worried that that meant that I couldn't be in the competition at all. But fortunately, I was still in it, and they gave me what was my number 8. Which doesn't say much, because I went through that list really quick. Like that one, sure, that one looks good. Maybe switch it around. Like I was, all the covers I selected were ones that appealed to me, but they weren't in necessarily a particular order. So I got my number 8, and I'm looking at it. It's like, so I got this one because nobody else wanted it. That's the only reason why it was still available the next day. And I'm looking at it like, what am I going to do with this? But I go out on my walks, and that's where I get to do a lot of my thinking. And after just 2 walks, I'm like, oh my God, do I ever have a solid story for this? Like, wow, super solid story with this. And then as I start writing it, and as I go on my walks and it starts coming together, and I'm seeing the different characters, again, there are things that will just pop in my head, like an event that's made up to this story or something. And then it ends up playing a vital part. It's, I don't know. I can't wait to actually be able to talk about it. Like, I can't even tell you the genre or anything, but unlike the novel I've already written that isn't quite published yet, and I can't tell you anything about it for my own safety, this novel for this competition, once it's over and I can publicize it to people I know, there's no reason why I can't. So I do have a book already written. I'm just in the final processes of trying to figure out how to actually publish it. It's a lot more tricky and daunting and overwhelming. And when things get overwhelming in your ADD and autistic, it can kind of shut you down. And so I'm hitting barriers with like these last few steps that need to get done for this book that I've been working on forever to get published. And it's causing a lot of anxiety in me not getting it done. Yeah, I just, But now that I'm writing this new book, that's literally the only thing my brain can focus on. So it's hopefully once I'm done the first draft of this book, I can just kind of take a break and focus on the other things I need to do. I have forced myself out of my apartment, not during the heat dome that we had here. Oh my God, I locked myself in my apartment for that because luckily I have AC and I don't do well in the heat. But I go out, I volunteer at certain things in the community and whatnot. And one of the things I was volunteering at is the Multicultural Festival that happens every year. And I was with the Amnesty International table. And something almost happened because I left to go get my lunch. And apparently that's when the Zionists showed up, because we had a petition on the table for, to ask the Canadian government to stop sending weapons to countries committing genocide. Reasonable ask, one would think, but a Zionist stopped by the table apparently and was saying, oh, you're just following all the propaganda and stuff like that. And I really do not know how I would have reacted if I had been at the table at that time, because I've zero tolerance for that type of thing. And I don't want to be in those situations. I'm not particularly confrontational, but I'm not exactly the type to back down either. And I'm just so fed up with Zionists in general, just trying to, oh, it's not a genocide. We're just killing tens of thousands of people or something stupid like that. And I don't know how I would have reacted to somebody at the table saying that. And I'm worried I might have overdid it. It was probably a good thing I wasn't there, but at the same time, I kind of wanted to be there because I don't know what would have happened. And part of me is curious, but part of me is like, it's a gamble. It's a gamble. And it'd be easier if I have those types of encounters and they're not on screen. Like I'm not a debater. I would never do an online debate with somebody. It's not my thing. I enjoy watching them when they used to kind of sort of happen, more for entertainment. Well, it was more for, I was curious in debate techniques. I can't say any of them changed my mind. Some of them actually helped me with talking points, that sort of thing. But all the debates lately are just, they're so uninteresting because, there's no two sides to genocide. That's not a debatable, in my opinion, and that's not a debatable conversation, and anyone who is trying to brush it off and say, oh no, what Israel is doing is okay, it's like, no, I don't want to hear it. You don't get to sit there and try to justify a genocide and pretend like this is a normal conversation. Yeah. Lilac Cook, did you write it chapter 1 to end, or did you write at different areas of the novel when you might have hit a writer's block to a section? So far, I haven't hit a writer's block with this book. Like, seriously, it's, again, all I want to do is work on it. Like, you have no idea how much it's bugging me not working on it today. Because, I wanted to watch the Majority Report earlier. I had some other things to do. And I can't start it when I have something else planned later on in the evening, because I will lose track of what I'm doing and totally not do that thing I'm supposed to. The way that for people who are curious on process, the way that I've done this one is I would go on the walks, and it takes a few walks. And I never have to worry about losing the information that's in my head when I'm going on these walks, because it's repeating over and over and over. And then I just kind of hit a point and I start blurting it out in a notebook, like writing down all these different points and stuff as they kind of flow out, just point. But then when I sit down to actually start writing it on the computer, it is a start to end type thing. Although I am going to have to go back and do some fill, because there are sections where it's like, this was taking me too long to sit there with. So it's just like, put in brackets, describe dress here or something, because it's like, okay, I know what I want the conversation to be right here. I just can't think of the wording right now, and I just want to get on to the next part. So there are a few sections where it's like, they're talking about this right here, where I'm going to be going back to and filling it in later. But it is a front to end type thing. And like I said, now that I've gotten further along in the book, there's things where I have to go back and actually adjust so that they make more sense. And I'm also keeping the notebook with me, because every now and then I'll think of something like, oh, they should say this here or that there, or describe this. And so I'll write that down. So basically, once I'm done this kind of first draft, not full draft, but first draft, is I go through the notebook that I have of all the different points I made, insert them, like if I've missed them, insert them into the book wherever it is. And then after that, just start from the beginning and do all the infill, smooth it out, that sort of thing. That will be the process for that. Okay. I should probably get on with the stuff I have planned today, because there is a fair bit to go over. So much news, so much news. And I have a very important Breach article that I want to talk about. The Breach, fantastic online news network, progressive news. They do investigations, things of that sort. They're still relatively new-ish, but their articles are really long. But they're so good with what they do. So I should probably get to it, because then it leads into the next story and the next story and the next story. I've tried limiting how many stories I'm doing, but I ramble. So I need to actually get to what I'm here for. And then I see, things in the sandbox I want to reply to, or things I see. So it's like, yeah, it's just not any other thing. Okay, so why do I do this? Here we go. The Breach. So inside the shocking police operation targeting pro-Palestinian activists in Toronto, a heavily resourced hate crime unit has engaged in surveillance, night raids, and trumped up charges against Palestinian Solidarity Movement. This story is kind of, I want to say it's unbelievable, but it's not. A lot of this just, oh, the police are targeting pro-Palestinian protesters, not shocking. At the behest of a billionaire, not shocking. I wish it was. Like, I wish I could be shocked, like, what do you mean the law isn't doled out evenly across the board depending on, your class and who you are and your political leanings? To be that, there's a lot of liberals, I think, like that, like Canadian liberals, centrists, right of center, Trudeau liberals that actually believe that the law gets, what's the word? When everyone, there's a word in my head specifically that I want for this. When it's across the board, there's a word in my head for it. I don't know. I'm not going to stay here all night and try to figure out what that one word is. But there is this very specific word that I'm thinking about when it kind of gets, it's, the words aren't doled out that I'm trying to think, but it is along those lines, and I'm sure somebody in the sandbox might think of it for me. Enforced? Maybe that's it. Enforced evenly, that the laws were enforced evenly across the board depending on who you are. Anyway, very interesting article here. So, well, I'll try to go through this as entertainingly and quickly and insightfully as I can. The banging at the front door started at 5:30 a.m. It was so heavy that on the second floor of the Mississauga, Ontario home of the Islaya family, bed began to shake. For people who might be new to the Sandbox I can't pronounce names. It's a thing. It doesn't matter. I am horrible with names of places and names of people and stuff. So you'll have to forgive when I don't do that right. The Palestinian-Canadian family of 5 opened the door in late January to find several Toronto police officers with warrants to arrest their eldest son. We were in shock. Sua told The Breach in an interview, "Did my son hurt someone? Did he kill someone? Those were the thoughts that crossed my mind." Ahmed, a 26-year-old elementary school teacher. Yeah. School teacher. Don't go like here. Elementary school teacher was accused of participating in a demonstration that briefly halted traffic on Toronto's Gardiner Expressway in November. That's, to use the word accused of participating in a demonstration, that already just seems a little off for freedom of expression in this country. And yeah, it briefly halted traffic on Toronto's Gardiner Expressway. What? Do you know what else halts traffic on the Gardiner Expressway? Traffic. Halts traffic. And apparently this was like for 5 minutes that it halted traffic on the Gardiner Expressway. And I've been on the Gardiner Expressway, and in clear traffic, it would take me like 5 minutes from end to end, but in bad traffic, it can literally take an hour. Like, it is just like for them to say like, "Oh no, you halted traffic on the Gardiner Expressway." It's like, uh-huh. So are the police going to go after all the people that are stuck in a traffic jam? The protest against Israel's assault on Gaza has lasted for only 5 minutes. After waking up, Ahmed handcuffing him and charging him with mischief, 8 police officers sat the family, still in their pajamas, at the dining room table. While they searched their home, the front door stayed open despite freezing winter weather, and the family's pleas to close it. So just being cruel for the sake of cruel, like to have people... it's humiliating being in your pajamas, having people, gawk at you, sit you down, put you, like you kind of feel like on display, and then to have the front door open with the cold blast air coming in and you don't have a blanket or anything, and the police are just acting like assholes. According to the warrant marked "authorized to be executed at night," the items police were looking for included black pants, white Nike running shoes, and a keffiyeh. Black pants. That's very generic. Like most people have black pants. Like to have that so vaguely on a warrant, like a piece of generic clothing, like I could understand if it was like a very specific, there was a phrase on this t-shirt that caught the attention, but generic black pants and white Nike running shoes and a keffiyeh, which a lot of Palestinian supporters have. And it's very, again, it's very, very generic stuff. "Our house is full of keffiyehs. We're Palestinian," Sua recalls telling the police. The family, who immigrated to Canada in 2005 from Ramallah, maintains strong connections to their homeland. "I have a poster of Palestinian map. I asked them if they wanted that too." I've done the same thing. After the police left with Ahmed's computers, electronics, and clothes, the family discovered his room turned upside down. Drawers had been emptied on the floor, his mattress was thrown off the bed, a vase was broken, and several boxes had been rifled through. "It took us back to our lives in the West Bank," Sua said, "when Israeli soldiers raided our home." Their family is not alone. Since October 7th, both Palestinian and non-Palestinians involved in common non-violent protests have been targeted in sweeping, heavily resourced police operations that experts say has engaged in extreme overreach. Led by expanded hate crimes unit, because, protesting genocide falls into hate crime, apparently now in this country. Well, it has been ever since October 8th. And operating under the name Project Resolute, the police tactics have included pre-dawn raids, snatching people on the streets, trying to turn arrested individuals into informants, showing up unannounced at university lectures, and capitalizing on years of surveillance activist movements. Police scholars and lawyers say Toronto police have undermined charter-protected rights of protest and expression by misapplying hate crimes, charged with some saying that the aim is strategic incapacitation of a growing Palestinian solidarity movement. Yet in several instances, months after the arrest and showy police press conferences, the cases are falling apart and charges are being withdrawn. Probably because there is no legal reason to be raiding these people's houses in the middle of the night. But in the time it has taken for the Crown to acknowledge that charges lack the prospect of conviction, media headlines have caused significant damage to the livelihoods and reputations of those targeted. Kevin Walby, an associate professor of criminal justice at the University of Winnipeg and expert on police tactics, called it the height of political policing. Yeah, because, you know, you had the Freedom Convoy up in Ottawa for almost a month, terrorizing a city, blocking roads, preventing people from getting to the work, laying on the horns all hours of the day and night. Like, it just egregious overstep. Like, that wasn't a protest, that was an occupation. And the police did nothing. In fact, some of them were encouraging the protesters, saying, oh yeah, I'm with you. And they really did nothing. Here you have a protest that shut down a highway for 5 minutes. And the police raid their home at 4:30 in the morning and arrest people over that. That doesn't seem like equal enforcement of laws going on. Police aren't acting to target everyone consistently. Oh, I think that's the word that I was looking for earlier, consistent enforcement of the law. Walby said, it's driven by pervasive anti-Palestinian sentiment among government officials, and it undermines the very idea of hate speech law when police apply the charges so selectively to serve political interests. Shane Martinez, a Toronto defense lawyer representing multiple people charged in the protests, said the operation raises questions about anti-Palestinian bias of the Toronto Police Service. We'll get a little bit more into this with another story. The public should be outraged that millions of taxpayer dollars are being used not to combat hate crimes, but to surveil and repress one of the largest mass organizing movements seen in decades, Martinez said. And so this is them shutting down the Gardner Expressway for 5 minutes. Hate Crimes Unit zones in on Palestine protests. On October 7th, not long after news broke of Hamas cross-border attacks on Israeli civilian and military base, Toronto Police Chief Myron Dimke, I think it is Dimke, I've heard it on the news now a lot, so I'm just going to go with Dimke, posted a message on X. So again, we want consistent enforcement of the law, and here's the Toronto Police Chief. I am closely monitoring the events in Israel with deep concern. The Toronto Police is not aware of any threats to Jewish communities in Toronto. However, we have increased our presence and visibility to ensure safety of our Jewish communities and all residents. No such message of concern would ever be forthcoming for Toronto's Palestinian community, even as Israel launched its bombardment and invasion of Gaza, which to date has killed more than, it's more than that now. It's just official numbers and stuff. I don't even want to hazard to guess, but I can guarantee you it's over 45,000. But to try to guess the top end of that number, it's horrifying to think of it, for all the bodies that haven't been accounted for that are under the rubble. It was an early sign of a one-sided policing approach. Several days later, Mayor Olivia Chow put forward a motion that would give police central role in keeping Toronto safe from hate. Yeah, everyone had so much hope for Olivia Chow. being mayor of Toronto, somebody who's more left-leaning, progressive. None of it. None of it. So disappointing what she's done. Because she got into office partly on like this idea of less funding for the police, less kowtowing to the police force and all that sort of stuff. And it just, that never materialized. A small meeting followed between the Toronto Police Hate Crime Unit, part of its intelligence service, and Chow's top staff and the deputy mayor. Also in attendance was Councillor James Pasternak, an aggressive defender of Israel who had previously tried to ban a group of Queers Against Israel apartheid from the city's Pride Parade. Because of course, you know, it's not the parade that gets to dictate who's in it. You know, it's not the Pride Parade itself, but it's other people's feelings as to who should be allowed in it. A week later, Chief Dimke and the unit's senior official participated in a major town hall organized by a United Jewish Appeal. Police promised a similar event in the Muslim community, but did not respond to the brief's questions about whether it ever happened. Probably not. I don't think it happened. Just putting it, no. Meanwhile, several other pieces fell into place that would reinforce one-sided policing. The Toronto Police made a decision to empower the Hate Crimes Unit, giving it leadership of Project Resolute. The unit grew from 6 officers to 32, according to a verbal report Chief Dimke gave Police Service Board in November. And if you see how much police officers, well, I guess they were just being moved from one unit to another, but they get paid so much. But just 6 to 32, not to police actual hate crimes, but to crack down on protesters. Officers from other specialized units were drawn into the operation. In late October 2023, the mandate of the unit was also quietly expanded to include the investigation of any occurrence generated as a result of protests and or demonstrations related to the Middle East conflict. This stood out as a red flag to defense lawyer Martinez. The fact that police expanded its mandates to investigate Middle East protest activity that is not considered hateful or even criminal makes it evident that this movement was targeted because it is connected to Palestine, he said. They likely saw this as a major surveillance opportunity. The Toronto Police refused several requests for an interview and did not respond to questions from the breach. But one officer, who the breach is not naming because they were not authorized to speak to the media, said police had set up a fully integrated intelligence sharing model, getting fed information by RCMP's Integrated National Security Enforcement Team and CSIS, Canada's spy agency. Okay, this is Canadian. The Breach is Canadian. It's a progressive Canadian magazine. When we're talking to other Canadians, do we really still have to mention that CSIS is Canada's spy agency? Like, are there people who are still unaware of that? I just find that a little quirky, that's all, because I would hope by now most Canadians know what CSIS is. Dozens of other officers were soon deployed to fulfill the city's motion's request to create community safety zones, monitoring and protecting Jewish and Muslim places of worship. One gets protected better than the other. Will not allow people of our city to be intimidated, Dimke pledged in front of city councillors at the Police Service Board meeting in November, while explaining the meaning of Project Resolute. Least anyone tried to misconstrue the meaning of the term. Let me be clear. We are resolute in our mission. Ooh, okay, that's some pretty snazzy titling there. Project Resolute, because they're resolute in their mission. See what they did there? They put the adjective in there. The resolute. They're resolute to do something. Yeah. some really, they should write a book to ensure public safety and security while also ensuring that the constitutionality protected rights to free speech and assembly is maintained. But in the months to come, those rights would come under crosshairs of the hate crime unit. Strategic incapacitation of a growing movement. This is a long article, but there's a part of it that I really just kind of maybe want to skip down to. I do encourage everyone to read the whole thing. I can try to remember to post it in the description box, but go and read the whole thing. But I wanted to get down to something important. Well, the whole article is important. Like here, a socialist flag, a university lecture, peaceful protests on a highway overpass, a nonviolent office sit-in, and protests of washable paint splashed on bookstore all have drawn Project Resolute's attention and resources. In many cases, this attention has led to charges of hate-motivated crime or severe restrictions in subsequent protests. Okay, I just kind of want to get down to, yeah, just remember that here, AWZ, an investment fund led by former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper, is behind facial recognition tech being used by the Israeli military to conduct mass surveillance of Palestinians in Gaza. I covered that article in a previous live stream. I believe I clipped that. Please go watch it. Horrendous information, but information you need to know. Let's see. 1, 2... There we go. Just want to see where that part begins. Okay, I guess it begins here. So, in February, Project Resolute even made itself felt in a university lecture hall. Palestinian scholar Muhana I was preparing to deliver a presentation at York University when 2 University police officers entered the room. When challenged, officers said that they had been called to the university to address a possible protest. Why is that needed for the police? A possible, freedom of expression and assembly in this country, only under police surveillance. But according to the breach's investigation, this wasn't true. In fact, York administration revealed that a select group of professors that the police were acting on alert from Special Intelligence Unit. The crown jewel of Project Resolute's operation, however, was its sustained focus on a protest against Indigo CEO Heather Reisman. In early November, Indigo's flagship Bloor store in Toronto was plastered with posters and red paint to protest Reisman's involvement in a foundation that provides millions of dollars every year to people who volunteered to join the Israeli military. When this happened, people were accusing the protesters of being anti-Semitic, that they're targeting this Jewish-owned business, and that's the only reason why they were targeting it. And almost no news organization pointed out what you just saw on the screen, that no, it's not because anything to do with Jewish. It has everything to do with, providing millions of dollars every year to people who volunteered to join the Israeli military, the IDF, which is currently doing a genocide. That's where they have the problem, not with Jewish people. For 2 weeks and also posters and red paint, that's the damage that happened, as in there was no damage. It could be washed off in a hard rain. That's what happened. For 2 weeks, nearly 10 officers from the Hate Crimes Unit worked full-time on the case, scouring social media and canvassing neighborhoods where the protesters lived for camera footage. All of that for posters and red paints. No damage to property, because a CEO was upset that her store was targeted. Night raids follow, involving more than 50 officers and K-9 unit. They use tactics usually reserved for violent criminals' offenses, arresting people in bed, handcuffing family members of those accused, and leaving doors knocked off their hinges. Toronto police announced that postering was being treated as hate-motivated offense, and said it was carried out because Reisman is Jewish, even though one of the accused, a professor at York University, is Jewish herself. When protests first started against Reisman's funding of Israeli military volunteers in 2006, the Jewish Women's Committee to End the Occupation were centrally involved. But no, Heather Reisman, she was upset being targeted. So she basically called up the police and be like, hey, can you do something about this? I feel intimidated here with posters and red paint on washable surfaces. At least 4 people who used the paint and posters to protest Reisman last year were suspended from their jobs and lost contracts, and others still were subjected to harassment on social media. As of early April, the cost of the Project Resolute reached $12 million through additional legal costs associated with operations, would likely increase that tally by millions more. That's where the over $1 billion police budget in Toronto is going to harass people who are protesting. Indigo CEO, instant access to police chief. Claims of political pressure have swirled around the Toronto police operation, with experts stressing that police are not the only ones driving its politicized nature. The police are leveraging significant public resources and personnel, said Walby. That's only possible because everyone from Olivia Chow to Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau have been pretty supportive. There is a broader formation of elites whose views are animating what police are doing. In January, the day before Toronto's police chief declared a ban on the Avenue Road protests, he met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. When Trudeau was pressed by the media about what he had said to Chief Demke, he only said the federal government doesn't have a line of command over the decisions taken by Ontario and Toronto police, unless you employ the Emergencies Act in Ottawa. That happened. That's one of the things that I'm still... Do I agree with Justin Trudeau for deploying the Emergencies Act to the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa? I'm still in an iffy situation with that because I want to say no, but at the same time, something needed to get done to help the people in Ottawa. And the provincial and municipal governments failed them. And so Justin Trudeau was using what avenues he had, even though looks into it later on, said that he was unjustified in using the Emergencies Act. So it's one of those, I don't know, it needed to end. And if the municipality and the provincial government weren't willing to do it, someone had to. Because that was not a protest. It's not just political figures who are... Let's start that over. It's not just political figures who are suspected of giving prompts to Toronto police. The same day that Indigo was plastered with posters protesting her support for Israel's military, CEO Heather Reisman made a phone call to Toronto's chief of police, according to a police source. To Walby, the example is telling. It shows some elites have instant access to upper echelons of the police, Walby said. The police aren't being directed. The police aren't being directed and they're not taking marching orders, but clearly they're taking cues. They're taking advice that reflects a certain set of political interests. This is access and power that any other Canadians do not have. Yeah, I can't call the police chief on a whim for whatever reason. I would imagine most people can't do that. Reisman spoke to police again in late November. The next day, Toronto police added a new charge to the accused, criminal harassment, which is behavior that causes a victim to fear for their safety and safety of anyone known to them. It carries the potential sentence of 10 years in jail. So I think those are what I really wanted to get to. So months on, police charges are falling apart in the middle of the proceedings, just as the police delivered a stern rebuke to the Crown prosecutor. So yeah, definitely they were overstepping their bounds with this. I do recommend everyone go and read this full article. It is long, but that's kind of what I wanted to get to because the person who we started this article with was one of those targeted for the Indigo postering, I believe. So it's just completely outrageous use of authority figures here in Canada. And it's, again, we have police forces that are supposed to keep the public safe, but is that ever the case? Like, they keep property safe, don't you dare hurt anyone else's property. But when the units that are meant to keep communities safe are the ones that end up traumatizing that community, maybe it's time to relook, maybe do some defunding, dismantling, reinventing of how policing works in this country. If that's the case, if the police are causing more trauma than solutions. Just saying. So yes, go read this article, but I do want to move on. So I'll just quickly check the Sandbox and we'll get into, we'll be getting on to Canada imposes additional sanctions in response to Hamas terrorist attack against Israel. And you might be thinking, when did this happen? June 25th. Still harping on that. So we'll quickly check the Sandbox and then we'll get to that. And then we'll get into, following that is the stuff about the University of Waterloo encampment here. It is dry in here, of course. Let's see. Looney Tunes 9000 says, I wear black pants most times. Oh no! Again, it's just generic piece of clothing. Like, you could raid almost anyone's house with that on the warrant and find black pants. Oh. Genie Bottle. People wanting police are often met with the violence. This is history of the world. Shame lesson not learned yet. Yes. Let's see. Crotchety. Toronto was where the high-speed crash happened, where the police caused a collision resulting in fatalities of oncoming traffic. Right? Yep. Yeah, they chased a couple people for stealing some bottles of liquor from the liquor store. And basically because as this person was leaving the liquor store, he pulled a knife on a off-duty police officer. And that miffed them. So they started a high-speed chase, which went down the wrong way in the highway, which resulted in the deaths of 4 people. Well, 4, was it? 4 people, including the person who had stolen the liquor. It was 2 generations of one family, the grandparents and a baby. A baby. Because the police chased these people down the wrong way of a highway. Okay, let's go back here. So, Canada imposes additional sanctions in response to Hamas terrorist attack against Israel. News release, June 25th, 2024. Still going after Hamas at this point. Not what Israel is doing to Gaza, but the remnants of Hamas must still suffer because it's not like they're not suffering enough. The Honorable Melanie Joly, Minister of Foreign Affairs, today announced that Canada is posing additional sanctions under the Special Economic Measures Hamas Terrorist Attacks Regulations. These sanctions are another clear example of Canada's commitment to countering Hamas and its acts of terror, as well as affiliates and financial networks. Where is this commitment to countering acts of terror when it comes to Israel's bombardment of Gaza? There's not been any pushback from this government on what Israel has been doing, the horrors they've been unleashing, the tens of thousands of innocent people who have been dying. There's been no sanctions, there's none of this, but they're still going after Hamas now. Tell you what, before we do anything else against Hamas, how about we call for a ceasefire, we go into Gaza and do some investigation to see if there are any Hamas members still alive. Today's sanctions apply to 9 individuals and 2 entities with roles in Hamas financial networks. They have directly or indirectly participated in facilitating, supporting, and providing funding, assessed by having been integral part to the planning and execution of the attacks on Israel on October 7th, 2023, and those are the individuals and stuff. Canada unequivocally condemns the brutal terrorist attack perpetrated by Hamas and its affiliates on October 7th, 2023. These horrific attacks included the killing, maiming, abduction of innocent civilians, including children. Where is this for the people in Gaza? The killing, the maiming, the abducting of innocent civilians in Gaza. Where is Canada's response to that? Like, this is official, Canada.ca government webpage. Where is this level of condemnation for what Israel is doing to the innocent people in Gaza? Again, it's a 2-tiered system here, The police, the government officials, they all tend to work for the same side. And a lot of that's white supremacy, settler colonialism, all of that. Today's sanction represents further steps in Canada's response to the ongoing violence in the region. Why is that violence ongoing in the region? Why? Why is that happening right now? Right now. Why is that happening? It's not because of Hamas. Canadian remains deeply concerned by the impact the conflict is having on Israeli and Palestinian civilians and is committed to promoting peace and security in the Middle East. If you really want to promote that peace, no more weapons. No more funding of the genocide. So, again, 2-tiered system. Really... It's hard to have faith that you will be safe doing things you're legally allowed to do in this country if it upsets the wrong people. And we're supposed to be in a free country, Canada. It's free. And relative to a lot of other countries, yeah, sure it is. But, the more I learn about global politics and stuff, the more I've come to realize there's no such thing as a democracy. None. There's no such thing as freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, of, people's rights, law enforcement. There's no fair and balanced country out there. They're all bad. All of them are bad. And, it's going to take a massive movement, not just in one country. It has to expand in order for this to stop. Because as long as some countries are allowed to remain in these dictatorship, behaviors, then it's just incentive for other countries to fall back to it. We gotta make it clear it's not okay anywhere. Anywhere. Yeah, I wanted to follow up because there's been some breaking news that none of you have heard about. when it comes to the University of Ottawa student encampment, the pro-Palestinian student encampment, which has been called Gaza House. I have a video on it. I interviewed their media representative. Please go check it out. I have it pinned to the top of my YouTube channel for everyone's convenience. There's been some updates with that. Not good. Not good at all. Let's get to it. So, this is from their official Twitter account, the occupation of the University of Waterloo. UWMN stoops to threats of state violence against free expression on campus. On June 21st, UW posted a trespass notice against Gaza House, set up to protest 76 plus years of Zionist settler colonialism in Palestine, including 8+ months of the genocide in Gaza. And this has been a common tactic with all the universities. All the university encampments are having to deal with, you're trespassing on this land of the university. Well, it's escalated a fair bit. Sorry, I think I have something on my nose and it's really bugging me. So this is Emmett McFarlane. He's a Canadian politics and constitutional law author, governing from the bench, constitutional pariah, legislating under the charter. So my letter to the president of the university. Let's see, what is this in the right order that I wanted? Yeah. So he wrote a letter. There's lots of letter writing campaigns going on to the president of the university. It's like, hey, you know, maybe these students should be allowed to protest. So today you released an announcement that the university will seek an injunction. Oh, an injunction against the encampment. In doing so, you cite the report of the Task Force on Free Expression and Inclusive Engagement to support your decision. That's interesting. An injunction. We'll get to that. As a member of the task force and speaking only for myself, I am deeply troubled by the reliance on our report to justify the violation of the very principles it outlines. It is true that our report states the right to peaceful assembly does not permit the endless or unlimited occupation of shared space on campus. But the report is also very clear that police action or an injunction should only be sought, 1, as a last resort, and 2, when there has been undue disruption to the university's activities or there's been specific safety concerns. It emphasizes not only university's duty to restraint with regard to technical trespass, but also its obligation to ensure the safety of members of the community. Enforcement of an injunction would dramatically increase the risk of violence against members of our community. Your announcement speaks to the harassment and intimidation perpetrated by encampment members, but it offers no specifics and does not even clearly state whether the university has made a legal judgment that the law has been broken, for example, criminal harassment, or if it merely responding to complaints, perceptions of if there are real grounds for pushing the removal of the encampment. You owe the community a specific and transparent account of the basis of this decision. Absent a sufficiently specific and transparent justification for taking this action, you are directly violating the core rights and principles articulated in our report. Indeed, by relying on our report in the manner you have, you threaten to undercut and vitiate months of hard work. Well, it got worse. Waterloo isn't just seeking an injunction, it's also suing the encampment participants for $1.5 million in damages. $1.5 million in damages for an encampment protesting a genocide that the university has funding towards. What? And Emmett is, I can't even with this. No, I can't either. It's just, they're suing the encampment. Like, this reminds me of, there were some stories down in the States of companies wanting to sue striking workers for damages. But really, it's just a way to stop people from striking. This would just be a way of stopping these encampments from happening. You know, this freedom of expression and assembly and all that sort of stuff. It's just a way to shut people down if you're going to sue them for 1.5 million in damages. And I've been to that encampment. I can tell you, there's not 1.5 million in damages there. They'll need some long care afterwards. Like, that's it. But here, the statement of claim emphasizing reputational to the institution and other damages, including harassment and intimidation, which they have not been able to prove any have been happening from the students in the encampment, is mostly about attacks on the president, including a poster calling him genocide goal. I'd be more supportive of a defamation suit than this BS. So somebody's asking, does this mean the university is suing its own students who are participants? Yep. So more from the Occupy UW. We are students who have risked everything to have our protests and university complicity in the genocide, and we refuse to allow those who fund death and destruction to break our resolve. History will absolve us, but how history will remember you. And they have this image here. Undermining the work of their own task force, UW-Min is suing their students for protesting genocide. And I remember when I was talking to Nick, the media representative, and I said, you know, down in the States, there's all these things, consequences for students participating that we've heard a lot of, like their diplomas being withheld and things of that sort. And, oh, is that happening up here? And he was very confident at the time that, oh, no, that type of thing would just, the university wouldn't do that because it would make them look bad. This makes them look really bad. Suing the students for 1.5 million. Where's the media coverage on this? There isn't any. I'm going to be talking with Nick again probably in the future. Right now isn't a good time because they're still trying to sort this out, and you know, I'm just using what's already publicly available here in this, but once he knows what he's allowed to say publicly, I'm sure I will have him back on for a statement about this, but they're a little busy dealing with this right now. So this is Vincent Wong. He is assistant professor at Windsor Law, PH candidates, Osgood News, Radical Capitalism and Status Excluded Communities. So in possibly the most appalling and shameful legal response to students' encampment at Canadian universities to date, UW is suing their own students for 1.5 million rather than divesting its investments paid for by student tuition in ongoing occupation and genocide. Like, things were really kind of quiet at the university when I was there, when I had Nick over, like there was nothing too outlandish. This is just like gone from 0 to 1.5 million in 10 seconds. Like, wow. I haven't heard of any of the other universities suing their own students because of the reputational harm their encampment has done. Suing your students will probably give you a lot more reputational harm, I would imagine. So here we have the claim. The plaintiff claims against defendants jointly and severally for damage in the amount of 1.5 million, including damages for trespass, damage to property, intimidation, and ejectment. A mandatory ordering required defendants remediate the plaintiff's property as defined below to the conditions as they existed as of May 12, 2024, and to deliver the plaintiff recorded confirming such remediation. An order requiring the defendants and any persons having notice of the order to immediately dismantle and remove any encampment or obstructions erected, built, created, or imposed by them, including but without limitation to any tent, shelter, structure, barrier, fence, personal chattels, or rubbish of any kind whatsoever. Direct costs, expenses for property, repairs, security, upgrades, and other safety measures to restore campus operations and ensure community safety. Yeah, cameras were set up around the encampment, directly peering in at them by the university. Operational disruptions, cancellations and postponements of academic and commercial events, as well as delays in construction projects leading to substantial economic losses and loss revenue opportunities. When I was there and saw it, they're not preventing people from going to class. They're not, preventing the function of the university as is. Sometimes they could walk by a class and you might hear some cheering and chanting and stuff, but nothing is being shut down because of this encampment. University life is still go as normally went. Reputational damage, negative effect on the university's ability to, among other things, attract and retrain students and faculty, secure funding, and maintain its academic and community standing. You know what I would hope, have a negative effect on that? Funding a genocide. Maybe divest from these corporations that are funding a genocide. That, I would think, would have a negative effect on the university's ability to attract people. Like, divesting in these might actually help the university. Like, these students, by demanding that they do these things, would actually help the reputation of this university. Let's see. So, just a little bit of a thread from this person. The university makes a big stink out of intimidation and harassment, which in its factual particulars consists of the administration's hurt feelings for being called out on their complicity with ongoing genocide in Gaza. I'm still blown away by the audacity of the administrators to actually make a formal argument that it is the protesters' demand that their institutions act to prevent and avoid complicity in genocide, rather than the staunch refusal to act, which causes reputational harm. More than 14,000 children have been murdered, and the university is demanding $1.5 million from students who are organizing to stop their continued slaughter. Unreal. Please donate to students to support the thing. So they have here, I imagine this will be updated at some point because their goal was, sorry, when I first saw it was a lot less, but considering the legal costs and everything, I'll be putting this in the description box below. If you can, please support their cause. I'm trying my best to get them onto a majority report, actually. See if they can get a signal boost there, but it's I don't exactly have an in, like I don't have a way of just saying, hey, can you have this person on and have them be on? So I will try to remember to post this in the description box below. If you can, please donate. So right now their goal, when I first saw it, was a lot less than this. It's up to $14,574 USD goal. So that's United States dollars goal. So that'd be like 20,000, something like that, Canadian. So yeah, that's going on at the University of Waterloo right now. I'm probably going to be making a follow-up video to the one that I had where I originally interviewed Nick about it, because this is just completely outrageous. 1.5 million suing the students involved in a peaceful protest. Like, this is the university just trying to shut down any dissidents at all. Like, this is the university upset that they're being called out for what they're doing to encourage this genocide. That's what this is about. It's not about, oh, you're damaging our reputation. It's pointing out to everyone else how the university is a horrible piece of crap that is, investing in corporations that's funding a genocide. Absolutely wild that they're doing this. And where's the media? Where's the coverage on this? I haven't seen anything other than those tweets. And again, I'm not exactly, going to web pages looking for it, which is just another fault in Canadian media. It's hard to find the information you need unless you know to look for it in the first place. So we'll just take a quick jaunt in the sandbox before we get on to a few more things related, and then this merges into some other things and so on and so forth. Probably won't do this article, but we'll skip to this here. Okay. So Life Israel says there are no innocents in Gaza, and if you dispute that, Congress deemed that anti-Semitic. So, yes, pretty much just saying free Palestine is considered anti-Semitic these days. So Life, Denmark, Norway regions seem nice. They seem nice. But I believe they've been on quite the anti-immigration bent lately. Like, didn't they just select like far right leaders? I don't know for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Leave Canada, go where? Where is better? Like, that's the thing. I do appreciate where I am, because especially during last night, during the ship blizzard, that was a debate between two old men that were basically doing a long-term care home rendition of The Odd Couple. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, Canada, this, like, you shouldn't be, snubbing your nose at them, or Canada is worse in this aspect, and blah, 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 on and on and on, because there's always going to be people, well, Canada's worse, or Canada's this and that and the other thing. I can say this with absolute certainty. I know for a fact that if I was American, living in America, I would not be alive today. That is just, I am unequivocal about that. That is 1000% the truth. That if I lived in America and I was American, I would not be alive today. Primarily because of healthcare. Yeah, I grew up in a low-income family. I'm low income right now on disability, which in the States is just as bad and worse in some areas than what it is in Canada. I've had to go to eMERGE for plenty of reasons. And if going to eMERGE meant thousands of dollars in bills for hospital stays, I would not have gone. And if I had not gone, I wouldn't be here today. So I know without a doubt, if I was American, I would be dead right now. I also know I feel a lot freer in this country to be myself, to say I'm non-binary, that I'm queer. There are definite advantages to being in Canada than the United States. And that's why I focus on Canada, because despite it being better than the worst, it doesn't make them good. And this country has a lot of improving it needs to do. Let's see. Oh, it skipped. Let's see. Crotchety. Wow, the university administration is scum. And Shakespeare? This is ridiculous. Hello, Shakespeare? Is that supposed to be like a Shakespeare thing? I don't think I've seen you at Sandbox before, so welcome. Let's see. Soul Life, they should be sending the invoice to the police and the board that decided to call them. Oh, I about the other story, yeah. Crotchety, University of Waterloo. I'm just repeating what Sandy wrote, so I don't ask again. Not sure what that is about. Yes, that was the University of Waterloo administration suing the encampment for 1.5 million Canadian. Not that I need to specify it's Canadian, but Americans might think, wow, that's a lot of money. And once you take the conversion into account, yeah, it's a lot of money. Germ, 1.5 million. That's a lot of littering, I guess. Yeah, like because there will be some damage to the lawn and stuff like that. Not $1.5 million worth. But that's the thing. It's not about that damage. It's about the reputational damage to the institute that they're suing the students for primarily. Let's see. Okay. Why don't we get on to some more Canadian Zionists and where this goes. Oh man, I still have like a lot to cover. I tried to restrict the stories that I have today, but again, I try to form a narrative with how I present them as I lead into one to the other and that sort of thing. So next on the docket, everyone's favorite liberal Zionist, Anthony Horsefarter. Anthony Housefather, had tweeted this out. Great to join Michael Rappaport and Aviva Klumpus at AJC Global tonight. It was a true honor to be part of this evening's plenary with such incredible activists. Yes, Michael Rappaport, known activist. Known Zionist activist right there. I have here, it's a TikTok from Rachel. She is wonderful. Follow her on any platform you can, but she breaks down a lot of this Michael Rappaport or Anthony Housefather or Horsefather, however you like to pronounce it, potato, is still under no threat from Justin Trudeau for being kicked out of caucus, despite his incredibly Zionist rhetoric. And that is probably because Justin Trudeau has publicly stated Zionism is not a dirty word. You know, nobody should be ashamed to call themselves Zionists. Yes, they should. They should. They absolutely should. So, follow her work. It is amazing. But we'll take a quick peek at this.
A Liberal MP took a selfie with Michael Rappaport and suggested the actor is a, quote, incredible activist. Yes, the Michael Rappaport who, days after Israeli strikes murdered Palestinian civilians who were seeking shelter in Rafah, posted a video asking whether one good or relevant thing has ever come from Rafah. Bit rich coming from someone whose most good or relevant thing he ever did was dying in fallout. But I digress. Now, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing calls to boot Anthony Housefather from caucus. Here's what's going on. Liberal MP Anthony Housefather was speaking at the American Jewish Committee's Global Forum in Washington this week, where Rappaport was a keynote speaker. So they took this fun little pic. When I found out about this, I tweeted about Rappaport's racist comments about Rafa. Then I got a DM from Anthony Housefather. He started with, wow, what a...
I have criticized Anthony Horsefather Farter plenty of times, and he's never DM'd me. Feeling a little left out. Just saying. Someday I'll get noticed by the big names so that I can mock them online publicly and, tell them to go fuck themselves.
A post and then informed me that because of the nature of the event, by attacking Housefather, I was attacking the views of the vast majority of Jews in North America and across the world. I told him this wasn't about Judaism, but rather Rappaport's anti-Arab racism. And Housefather replied that Rappaport is a comedian and that he doesn't get or look at all of his posts. Though I will point out, I highlighted Rappaport's Rafa comments in the post that I shared. And then Housefather DM'd me, referencing my post, seemingly defending Rappaport. Oh, and at the same time, columnist Erica Eiffel tagged Housefather in a post pointing out that Rappaport had previously tweeted comparing a black woman to an ape. Anyways, Housefather ended up telling me he deleted his post so it's not misinterpreted. And because he doesn't want anyone to believe he supports the comments I mentioned that Rappaport had made. That would be these comments. Housefather also sent me a longer statement which you can pause to read. But when I followed up and asked him if he stands by...
Let's pause to read. Thanks so much, Rachel. My comment would be, with hundreds of other Jews and allies, I am proudly attended the AJC Global Forum and engaged with many pro-Israel advocates. Like everyone else in attendance, I do not vet the positions or past comments of participants and obviously do not agree with all of their views, including the ones you referenced by Mr. Rappaport. I will continue to engage in forums in Canada and internationally that work to support the state of Israel and combat anti-Semitism.
When I followed up and asked him if he stands by the characterization of Rappaport as one of the event's incredible activists, and asked what he originally based that assessment on, he didn't reply, and it's been about 5 hours. Meanwhile, Sam Hirsch, a member of Independent Jewish Voices of Canada, an organization that advocates for justice and peace for all in Israel-Palestine, told me, quote, in the past 2 weeks, Housefather has organized an event with a right-wing Israeli politician pushing for more illegal settlements and met with notable anti-Palestinian racist Michael Rappaport. If Jolie and Trudeau are serious about supporting a ceasefire, Housefather cannot continue to sit in their caucus. I reached out to the Prime Minister's office, and they told me they'll leave it to Housefather to comment on this. And when I asked about calls to have him kicked from caucus, they said, quote, I think the MP has addressed the issue already. What do you think?
Yeah, Justin Trudeau isn't going to do shit about that. And just another tweet from Rachel echoing everyone and their dad, uncle, sister, and cousin here, but this isn't a good sign for liberals. So this kind of, I wanted to move to Anthony Horsefarter here, who was endorsing a candidate in a by-election in Toronto, St. Paul. So there was a by-election. It was normally a liberal stronghold, and they lost to the Conservatives, which is not a good sign for Justin Trudeau, for the Liberal Party, if this riding can go to Conservatives. And Rachel's just saying, I can't imagine this was super galvanizing for progressives following Housefather's staunch support for Israel amid what several experts considered a genocide. So, like, the thing is that if somebody endorses you, you can't control who endorses you. You can say, I don't want your endorsement, or maybe try not being a Zionist asshole. You know, there's lots of different ways of pushing back against an endorsement from a horrible person instead of saying thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Horsefarter, for your endorsement. Your support means a lot. Standing up against anti-Semitism means stopping online hate, strengthening education, and working with law enforcement to ensure safety of our communities. So, yeah, a breakdown of the stunning Tory win. So Tory is Conservative. in Toronto, St. Paul. I'm not going to go over all of the details. Just Conservative candidate Don Stewart captured a longtime Liberal stronghold of Toronto, St. Paul in a by-election Monday that could have far-reaching implications for the Canadian political landscape. David Dole of the Rational National did a very good long video about this particular election and just pointing out how basically both the candidates were horrible. And when you have Zionists supporting, running for office, endorsing other candidates and stuff, this whole pro-Zionist approach that Justin Trudeau is taking is really going to bite him hard in the election, because a lot of the progressives, the people who are most keen at making sure that the Conservatives don't get into power, they're not going to get energized to vote for a Zionist. It just doesn't happen. Many might bite their tongue and go and do it because the alternative is worse, but you don't build momentum, you don't energize a base by saying we're okay with these people who are trying to dismiss an entire genocide. But the thing is that there were other options, and some people are already saying, well, the NDP, if people who voted for the NDP actually just voted Liberal, then the Liberals would have won, blah, blah, blah. And technically speaking, yeah, that's true. Also, all those Liberals could have voted for NDP, because here's the thing. This isn't necessarily a Conservative riding, because their MPP on a municipal, that's the provincial level there, is Jill Andrew, and she is wonderful. NDP MPP. So this is the same riding. This is the Toronto St. Paul riding right here. You have Jill Andrew from the NDP, who is their MPP. So it doesn't have to be Liberal or Conservative in that particular riding. True, the NDP could be doing a better job, but that's another story. And just something a little amusing about this election. Election Canada defends slow counting process for by-election, blames 84 candidate ballot. So there's an organization out there that is trying to load the ballots with an obscene amount of candidates to protest Justin Trudeau back when he was saying that he would end first past the post and bring in proportional representation and all that sort of stuff. And so they go into ridings and just swamp the ballot with names and names and names. And so if we go down here, so this is all the people who were running and all the names that would have shown up on the ballot. Mostly independents. Just look at all those. Independent. Oh, we got a centrants. Marijuana Party. No affiliation. Of course, the Rhinoceros Party. Marxist-Leninists. Oh, is the Communist Party also there? Because we have a Marxist-Leninist Party and a Communist Party here in Canada. Because, of course, they can't get along. Let's see. Independent. All of those were on the ballot, and this poor person didn't even bother to vote for themselves. They didn't even get a single vote. They didn't even bother to go in there and vote. You know what? I'm just so I can say I had a vote. Not even. That's funny to me. Yeah. That is the state of that. And the thing is so we're talking about Anthony Horsfarter and how the Liberals are not kicking him out of caucus. Yet the NDP was very quick on a provincial level to kick out Sarah Jama from caucus. And one might think that the Conservatives, there is no line. But apparently one of their MPPs found a line. And again, this is provincial. We're going to get into that story, so it's a few layers deep. But wow, they actually kicked out one of their MPPs had finally gone far enough for Doug Ford to kick her out of caucus. So we'll get to that in a moment. We're just going to check the Sandbox quickly. Crotchety, 1.5 million Canadians, around $25 US. That's what I was thinking, but, you know, I didn't want to say for sure. Let's see. So, no, Crotchety, he is still part, Anthony Horsefarter is still part of the Liberal Party of Canada, federal. Crotchety, I'm not saying Liberals are the Progressive Party, but Zionists supporting genocide don't have home with the NDP. Oh, yeah, horrible. So, there has been an increase in racism attacks in this country, racist displays. And there has been a rise in anti-Semitism, not to the extent that gets advertised, because again, they're throwing in everything like, oh no, there was a poster for Free Palestine. That's hate speech right there. Which really then just devalues the actual anti-Semitism that's happening and minimizes that, because there is actual anti-Semitism and that's the problem. But Islamophobia is also on the rise. This is Toronto. This is Toronto. This racist Islamophobic truck has been spotted in Toronto sharing its message of hate. How is this acceptable in our city? Mayor Olivia Chow. So we have here, I don't think we need the volume on that. So it's a truck with these LED panels all around the sides, which I would think would be illegal on the roads because it would be a massive distraction. So right now on it are the words, is this Yemen? Is this Syria? Is this Iraq? And now it's showing people who look to be doing a Muslim prayer with the word that comes up, no. This is Canada. More Muslim prayer going on. Wake up, Canada. You are under siege. That, yeah, that was just driving around the streets of Toronto. Obviously, people were upset by this. And police were getting involved. We'll get back to the chief, Dimke, in a minute. But the first immediate thing on Twitter, everyone was wondering is like, who funded this truck? Who funded? Who funded? Who funded? Not shocking anyone, really. Rebel News. So Rebel News is a faux news organization, as in they don't really report on the news. They go to newsworthy events a lot of the time to try to make a scene so that they can fundraise. They're grifter, 1000% grifting. Like that is their thing. So Rebel News admits it owns truck displaying anti-Muslim ads. Rebel News has come forward to claim ownership of the controversial truck that has been spotted driving around Toronto displaying anti-Muslim messaging. In a post on its website, the right-wing media outlet wrote the Toronto police are officially investigating Rebel News for running these ads by local community activists on our Rebel News billboard truck. So yeah, they were being investigated for hate speech. There's a little bit of stochastic terrorism going on there, with this, telling Canadians that they're under siege by Muslims praying. That's some stochastic terrorism going on. And you see, here's where we get into that problem with the police chief and, how they target certain protesters and not other protesters, and where their biases might actually come into consistently applying law enforcement across the board. That's the police chief right there with the Rebel News guy. And the Rebel News guy has on a t-shirt that says, fuck Hamas. Rebel News. So Hate Crimes Unit is investigating Rebel News Online for a van owned by them that was riding around Toronto, broadcasting anti-Muslim hate. The same van was parked at the UJA Federation Walk with Israel, same plates van. Here's the Toronto Police Chief and Rebel News Online taking a photo op. Now, you might say to yourself, well, you don't know necessarily, somebody just wants a selfie with you. You don't necessarily know their political leanings, but the cap that says Rebel in the Rebel News logo, the fuck Hamas and the Rebel News there, might have been an indication. You might have been able to figure out where their political leanings were and thought, you know what, if I want to come across as an unbiased police chief of Canada's largest city, maybe I shouldn't be posing for selfies with this hateful bigot. Because how can you expect the Toronto police to fairly investigate this if this is what we're seeing? Is it going to be a fair investigation when they're just getting all chummy and stuff with the people responsible for this hate speech? Yet they'll go and storm some protester's house because they stopped traffic for 5 minutes. But, having a van like that drive through traffic of Toronto, well, that's totally okay. And then, of course, Rebel News, that is their tweet about this. That's like a breach article length worth of text right there. But basically, a conviction could see Ezra Levant jailed for 2 years. Please help. Basically, they did what they always do when they do stunts like this. Yes, we did this in the guise of freedom of speech. This is all about freedom of speech right here. We just want our freedom of speech. Give us money. Money, 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 money. This was just a fundraising scheme for them. Because they're now like, oh, we need legal stuff. We need to fight this attack on freedom of speech. Money, 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 money. That's all this is. Just send us money. This was just a money grabbing initiative from them. You can read this if you want. But it is just a lot of bullshit. You know what? Bullshit is kind of nice. Moose shit. Let's make it more Canadian, eh? It's a lot of moose shit pelleting all over the city here, eh? Just wow. It just immediately went to give us money for this egregious act that we did so that we can fight this in the court. And the thing is that they won't get convicted. They do this shit all the time. They will instigate things, or sometimes not too long ago, they were trying to harass a politician and their security guards unjustly got rough with them and arrested them type thing. And that was not okay by that security guard. But then it's about give us money, 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 money. Like, I wish I could fundraise like these guys. We'll just go to their Twitter account here. It's all about the money. Ooh, Toronto-based weekend junior producer. They're hiring. Maybe I can get in on some of that money. But they're just so racist, so phobic on every single level. They claim to be a news network. It's not really news that they're just pushing an agenda. That's all it is. They're so blatant in their agenda. We don't need to go over their stuff here. And Rachel Gilmore has another video. It's one of the things, like, when I'm doing this, I don't necessarily want to lean too much on other people's content, but she has a good connection here that I haven't been able to find. And it's worth noting, so we'll go over some of this. So Don't watch the whole thing, but
and
yeah.
told us it's his truck, saying, quote, "That's our truck, and those ads are from regular Canadian citizens who are afraid of Hamas and want to speak out." Ezra, wouldn't it be more accurate to say those ads are from regular Canadian citizens who are afraid of the entire countries of Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, as well as any Muslim who is praying? Because that's what this ad actually seems to convey. But I digress. Now, Ezra has told various media outlets that an anonymous group opposed to pro-Palestine protests paid them to run the hateful campaign. But to date, he hasn't been willing to name them, and they haven't been willing to come forward. Because apparently entire countries and religious practices aren't the only thing this group is afraid of. They're also too chicken shit to stand behind their own racist and Islamophobic ad. Meanwhile, because they're nothing if not predictable and utterly shameless, Rebel News is fundraising off of the blowback they're facing over their truck. All while selling tickets for the speaking tour they're hosting featuring their former reporter, a man Wikipedia describes as an anti-Islam campaigner and one of the UK's, quote, most prominent far-right activists.
So, Tommy Robinson was part of a speaking tour arranged by Rebel News. An evening with Tommy Robinson, Toronto, Sunday, June 30th. VIP ticket is only $250. General admission, $50. There were some issues around this. Just a few. So this guy was coming in from the UK. And again, this is something that Rebel News was putting on. So we have here from the antihate.ca, notorious UK Islamophobe Tommy Robinson arrested during Rebel News speaking tour. Robinson had to surrender his passport and may be removed from Canada after an immigration review. Because apparently this is a really horrible person and there's no way he should have been allowed into the country. Yet he somehow got in with Rebel News. Like if Rebel News is sponsoring you to get into the country, that there's probably, reason to look into it. But as he walked out of the Montreal Trudeau International Airport on June 17th, Tommy Robinson was shocked he was permitted into Canada. I didn't think I'd get into Canada. Haven't even booked a hotel. We're sorting it out now, he said, a video posted to Rebel News social media channels. Now, according to an exchange with Calgary police filmed by Robinson and posted online, he is alleged to have lied on his visa application. Arguably Britain's most famous Islamophobic activist, whose real name is who cares, gained attention in 2009 when he launched an anti-Muslim English Defense League. The group held often violent demonstrations in towns and cities with visible Muslim communities, according to UK-based anti-hate organization Hope Not Hate. So this is the caliber of people that Rebel News wanted speaking at their events. Robinson would go on to rebrand himself as a journalist and work for Rebel News in 2017. Several of Robinson's videos for Rebel News are cited in a 2019 criminal complaint by Canada Anti-Hate Network board member Richard Warman. The complaint alleges that Rebel News directors violated 319 of the Criminal Code for willfully promoting hatred towards the Muslim community. Robinson has made a name for himself promoting the idea of Muslim-led rape gangs operating en masse and unchecked in every town and city that has Islamic community. No, of course not. A sentiment he repeated last week on a live stream with Action for Canada Tanya Gaw. He says that Muslims need to go now and warns that the government will let your daughter get raped and killed as consequence of open borders. This is horrible. I haven't actually read this first. It just sounds like a horrible piece of shit person. On Friday, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network wrote a letter to Public Safety and Immigration Refugees, Canadian citizen, pointing that Robinson was ineligible to ineligible to enter Canada because of his criminal record and urging that he be removed from the country. Robinson was arrested by Calgary police shortly after speaking to a Calgary crowd on Monday on what they called an outstanding immigration warrant. He must surrender his passport and has to remain in southern Alberta until his immigration review. Robinson was also set to appear at speaking events in Edmonton on June 25th and Toronto June 30th. Don't think that's going to be happening now. Organized by Rebel News earlier this month, Rebel News was identified as the owner of a video billboard truck broadcasting Islamophobic video warning Canada is under siege. Recording himself in the back of a police vehicle, Robinson is seen saying to officers, "Ain't it mad how tough you get with immigration on the wrong people? It's mental, isn't it? You act like absolute spineless cowards as a country, letting every bloody goddamn..." Okay, there's horrible stuff there I'm not going to say out loud. "You don't know nothing about them, their criminal histories or anything, their ideologies, then you turn up mob-handed me to give them talk at a seminar." It's not how immigration happens in this country. It's not. The officer then responds, "Well, it's rather ironic that you're talking about criminal history coming from the guy who lied on his application about criminal history." Like, here he is saying that countries are allowing these criminal Muslims into their countries when he's an actual criminal bitching that he's not allowed into Canada. He's an actual criminal. And he lied on his application. But he's upset that Muslims might do that. Robinson denies lying on his application to enter Canada when officials asked who applied for his electronic visa. "My boss," Robinson says. "Your boss." "Well, your boss lied," the officer responds. Robinson then asks, "Well, what did it ask?" To which the officer says, "It asks if you've ever been arrested, charged, or convicted with any crime anywhere in the world. It also asks about your immigration history. The answer to all of those were no." Robinson brushes off the exchange, saying, "How many people do you get coming through your borders every day and you don't even have a passport? They haven't even got passports. They just turn up and then you give them a house." Okay, nobody comes to Canada and gets a house. That's not how that works. And I'm sure lots of people come over with a passport because it's hard to cross the border without a passport. But stay here illegally and they're not hunted down or anything because they're not doing public talking engagements. They're not publicly putting themselves on display and bragging about the hateful things they do and the laws they've broken. I imagine if somebody is an immigrant and they've lied on their application to get here and they are all those things, they're not then going to go in front of thousands of people and say, "Here I am." I don't think that's a thing. In subsequent video with Rebel News, Ezra Levant, Robinson says he can't leave Alberta and must stay between Red Deer and the United States border. He goes on to say that he must turn in his passport and report to police every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays as he awaits hearing with a judge who will determine whether he needs to leave the country. Hopefully so. Robinson has faced a lengthy list of criminal charges, convictions, and controversies over the years. Tommy Robinson's past legal troubles span decades. So 12 months in prison after assaulting off-duty officer, 12 months for his role in a football brawl, jailed for 10 months after he attempted to enter the United States with a false passport, was convicted of mortgage fraud, in prison for 18 months, received suspended sentence for putting a trial at Canterbury Crown at risk of collapse after he broadcast his statements from inside the court building. 2018, jailed for a similar offense. 2021, given a 5-year stalking protection order after he shouted abuse outside the home of a journalist, threatening to repeatedly return to her residence every night. Horrible, horrible person there. Robinson lost a libel lawsuit filed by a Syrian refugee in 2021. New charges were laid against him the day he landed in Canada for allegedly violating a court order by repeating a false allegations that this person, then a teenager, attacked girls in his school. In addition to being banned from entering the United States due to his immigration fraud conviction in 2012, Robinson is also banned from Mexico. In 2022, Mexican officials refused Robinson entry after he attempted to enter the country on holiday. "I'm being deported as a matter of national security," he said in a video posted to social media at the time. Huh. It's a horrible person. Horrible. Absolutely horrible person. And then just somebody saying, breaking moments after receiving a standing ovation for his speech at Calgary, Canada, Tony Robinson was arrested by 8 undercover and uniformed police. Rebel News has hired lawyers and is actively working for his release. Please send us money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. That's what they're wanting right now. It's money for the legal defenses, money for this, money for that. Money, just send us money for blatantly breaking the law and promoting hate speech and all that sort of stuff. But you see, so I've just described to you this horrible, horrible person here, this horrible piece of crap person here. That there is Ontario MPP Goldie doing a online video chat with this guy. So NCCM, they are the official Twitter account of the National Council of Canadian Muslims. We are shocked and furious that MPP Goldie, I don't know how to say her last name, has decided to once again demonstrate completely unacceptable conduct for a sitting elected official. MPP Goldie yesterday decided to post with herself and well-known Islamophobe and criminal Tommy Robinson. Robinson went to prison for assaulting a police officer. He also led English Defence League, a group linked with Islamophobic Norwegian mass shooter who killed 77 people in 2011. The shooter referred to the EDL as having notable intentions. Its supporters have been arrested for plots to bomb mosques from 2009 to 2014. Robinson was also recently arrested while in Canada for a number of unlawful breaches. MPP Goldie was also called out last year for spreading Islamophobic garbage for which she apologized. No apology is sufficient at this point for her latest ill-advised conduct. Premier Ford, we ask MPP Goldie be immediately removed from caucus. And just, it's unconscionable for a sitting elected MPP in Ontario to be meeting with a notorious Islamophobe who has gone to prison, and yeah. So that is MPP Goldie there. Breaking. Premier Doug Ford has removed MPP Goldie from his caucus. There was a line. She found it. Finally. Because we'll get into some of her previous behavior. But she's actually been kicked out of caucus. So, statement from the Premier, Doug Ford, on the removal of MPP Goldie from the Ontario PC caucus. Today, the Premier has made the decision to remove MPP Goldie from the Ontario PC caucus effective immediately. This decision follows repeated instances of serious lapses in judgment and a failure to collaborate constructively with caucus leadership and as a team member. While this decision did not come easily, it should have. Really, this should have come easily. There's no way that you should be looking at this like, oh, tough call here. It has become clear that MPP Goldie can no longer continue in her role within our caucus. So this means she now sits as an independent. So, a little bit more news on this. Ontario MPP not aware of Tommy Robinson's history before speaking to far-right figure. You know, it's one thing if you're just photobombed while you're out on the street with a stranger who isn't wearing a Rebel News t-shirt. That you might not know their politics and things of that sort. But as a politician, before going onto a show, you might want to do some digging. Might want to do some vetting. You might want to see if this is going to get you in trouble. Just do some due diligence there. Because even when I get invited onto shows, a lot of them I've never heard of, I will do a Google search their YouTube, check out a couple of their videos. Because yeah, it's good to maybe vet the places that you're going to be putting your face on. Especially as a politician who's supposed to, you know, represent all of the people in her riding. A PC MPP says she was not aware of the history of far-right British figure before taking a digital meeting with him to discuss the governing regime in Iran. Carleton MPP Goldie faced criticism from opposition politicians and a prominent Muslim group on Wednesday after sharing a screenshot of a conversation she had with Tommy Robinson, founder of the English Defence League. Robinson was arrested in Calgary, which we did. Robinson's group has regularly been described by researchers and advocates as Islamophobic and far-right. I condemn all forms of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, Goldie said in a statement to Global News on Wednesday afternoon. Hate has no place in Ontario. Got a couple more things to show you. In a separate social media post on Tuesday, Goldie questioned why Robinson had been arrested, while someone said she alleged supporter of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was not. Yeah, we don't need to go over this article. Let's just, this isn't the first time she's been in the news. This is from 2021. Law Society suspends MPP Goldie license over professional misconduct. Goldie failed to cooperate with investigation tribunal fines, so I guess she used to be a lawyer. The Law Society of Ontario has suspended local MPP Goldie's license after tribunal found she engaged in professional misconduct. She was a minister at that time. I believe, does this article say which? She was Minister of Justice. The Law Society, yeah, in its March 30 decision, the tribunal ruled that Goldie, the Progressive Conservative MPP for Carleton, had failed to cooperate with an investigation launched after a local restaurant owner filed a complaint to the LSO in January 2019. He said he paid Goldie about $9,500 in cash by the end of March, but she did nothing to assist him. Her inaction, he said, in the complaint, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, suspended. Lawyer. MPP, but no issue from Doug Ford there. Let's see, does it... Let's see, I'll do this. No, I guess. Yeah, I was reading somewhere that she was the Minister of Justice at the time. Yeah. And this news article here, this is from, this should have a date on it. Yes, November 24th, 2023. So this was back with a lot of fallout from Sarah Jama and all that sort of stuff. So Doug Ford will not remove MPP from caucus amid allegations of dangerous rhetoric on social media. The MPP in question right here is Goldie.
At Queen's Park, there's more fallout tonight after the expulsion of MPP Sarah Jama from the NDP caucus.
Leader Marit Stiles is now coming under fire from her own party over how she handled the controversy. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Moore.
Yeah, we don't need to go. I have tons of video about this.
Sarah Jama.
But we'll just skip to...
After Sarah Jama should resign immediately.
Very untenable position, and I had to make a very difficult decision.
I have plenty of videos about Sarah Jama being kicked out of the NDP, Ontario NDP caucus. I'm just trying to get to where they switch over to talking about Goldie.
For Hamilton Centre.
Jama was turfed in the legislature, in line with what the calls her ouster a betrayal. They want a review of Stiles.
With her position on Israel and Palestine.
Stiles asked.
Wait a sec. Did I? Sorry, I think I've gone through this before where this video is not actually related to the title. Sorry about that. I thought it was. I get so many tabs open that I get confused sometimes, but that was that video. So talking about Doug Ford will not remove MPP from caucus, and this video is all about Sarah Jama being removed from caucus. Anyway, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has said he will not be removing one of its MPPs from caucus following calls from two Muslim groups who claim she used dangerous rhetoric on her social media. Both the Canadian Muslim Public Affairs Council and the National Council of Canadian Muslims released statements on Thursday condemning Progressive Conservative MPP Goldie's social media posts on platform X. The continued and blatant propaganda of anti-Muslim rhetoric and Islamophobia by elected officials is alarming and unacceptable. This behavior has persisted for weeks without consequence, the CMPAC, a non-profit organization that fights Islamophobia, said in an open letter to the Premier. No elected official should use their platform in this manner without being held accountable. The Ontario PC party needs to remove Goldie from their caucus, and the Ontario legislature must censure MPP for spreading hate and inciting violence. The NCCM says in a letter that Goldie has recycled some of the worst Islamophobic fear-mongering by suggesting that Muslim prayer could be considered safety concerned in a message on X. So she's just been posting this all over Twitter, her Islamophobic stuff. Actually, I have a tweet that I'm going to show that I covered in a previous video. They also point out that she reposts messages that correlate the wearing of a headscarf to a symbol of subjugation of women throughout the Islamic world. There have also been instances in which the Carleton MPP called out her NDP colleagues. In one case, on November 19th, she said MPP Joel Harden was a mouthpiece for terrorist Islamic regime in Iran's anti-Semitic Islamofascist propaganda. She has also called now independent MPP Sarah Jama a terrorist sympathizer. This is quite the... And none of this was getting her kicked out of caucus, by the way. None of that was. Doug Ford kept her on after all of that. Goldie does also use her social media account to call out instances of hate, both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. On November 18th, she said that attacking any religious institution or targeting of people of any faith is completely unacceptable in Canada. The Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs called her a vocal advocate who has demonstrated leadership denouncing horrific surge in anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, blah, blah, blah. So I covered this in when I was covering the student encampments. She has spotted that the UT encampment doesn't seem very two-state solutionary to me. Seems very Hamasy instead, especially if you've read their charter. It's a chalk drawing that says Free Palestine. Horrible, horrible person finally gets kicked out of caucus for going and doing an online video with somebody who is so hateful and horrible in his rhetoric that he wasn't supposed to be allowed to come into this country. And she has replied to her ousting. She has tweeted about it. So she is quote tweeting, just saying that the Premier Ford has removed Goldie. And she says, when one door closes, another one opens. Peace. In other words, she already has a job in some sort of right-wing network. Maybe Rebel News. I don't know. Maybe down south where there's more money. To me, this means that she just has way more money coming to her somewhere else. Because she doesn't seem to be bothered by the fact that she was talking to this horrible Islamophobic piece of shit. She's not apologizing for that. Not really apologizing for all the other Islamic stuff that Islamophobic stuff she was posting all over. Not sorry for any of that. And now that it's gotten so severe that Doug Ford, who has accused immigrants of bringing their problems to this country and shooting up a Jewish school without anything supporting evidence, just randomly accusing immigrants, that man has now kicked her out of caucus. That's how bad it got. But I do like this response from Sarah Jama, who is also was kicked out of caucus, her NDP caucus, but she was kicked out for basically saying Palestinians are humans and maybe there should be a ceasefire. She did that just a few days after October 7th. And because of that, the NDP kicked her out of caucus. And she's also been kicked out of the house a couple times for wearing a keffiyeh. But basically, Sarah had this to say. I did not have Goldie will become my seatmate on my 2025 bingo card. Maybe I'll finally get to educate her about Islam. Sarah Gemma is awesome. She rocks. She's a wonderful person. I love her so much. So that is the state of politics. And so after this, I now just want to be covering the Ontario Science Centre and Doug Ford stuff. So there's still a fair bit to go. Fair bit. Let's see how much. Okay, not a ton. I'll try to zip through it too. Just some stuff related to the Science Centre suddenly getting closed by Doug Ford, and why it's just about money, money, money. That's all it's about, money. And just, I think this is all related to that. Yeah. Okay, so check out some comments in the sandbox. So Live saying, weren't they ordered to end the pursuit? Talking about that police chase. Yes, they were. They were. And they ignored that. Okay, so I've read those. And thank you everyone for coming in here. Oh, would be a good time for me to announce right now. See, Looney Tunes. They're one of my mods in the sandbox. Very good mod. Always posting links and helpful stuff like that. Well, Looney Tunes 9000 is premiering a video tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me see if I can just bring that up quickly. Let's see. So let's see. Yes, there we go. There we go. Looney Tunes 9000 has Parents Television Council rant number 10, now Parents Television and Media Council, and premieres tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you can, be out and check it out. Be interesting to see who's mods in their chat. I know I will try to check it out. So please support a fellow comrade and go check out their video. Let's see. See, it's always the trick right now. I see some stuff, trying to figure out what's part of a conversation that's happening in the sandbox, and then knowing what they're talking about. And I always hate just staring off to the side when I'm doing this. Felipe Auguste, protesting is part of education, just like frat parties. Those messed up the long too. Yes, they would. Okay, so I read over some of those. So crotchety Rebel News, their advertising approved department either knew about it or they will literally let scammers advertise on their trucks. Yeah, Rebel News agitates in order to get a story. It's like watching a Fractal Fool news group in some movie. I jumped. Where was I? I was just reading Moose Pellets from Judith. Yes. And Judith also saying he's a white nationalist straight up. Yeah. And hello from KW. You're in Ottawa. I'm in KW. Let's see. Da, 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 da. And people sending some love to Looney Tunes 9000, who has put the link to their video that will be premiering tomorrow. So I don't know if you have a snazzy name for your chat yet. They sometimes have to just kind of come organically. I don't know when I thought of mine, but when I did, it's kind of like, oh, that makes so much sense to call my chat the Sandbox. Because my name is Sandy, and this is Left of the Box. Okay, so I have been covering some news on my channel fairly regularly about corruption in the Doug Ford government, which could be a 24/7 job, really, if you wanted to do that. There is so much corruption going on in the Doug Ford government, like just so much. And one of the things is moving the Ontario Science Centre to where what is currently called Ontario Place, and to make it into Ontario Place into a luxury spa. Paving, like literally paving over part of Lake Ontario for a fucking parking lot. Like it's that bad. It's that bad. And he was going to move the Ontario Science Centre to above that parking lot. So he's just destroying beloved landmarks of this province, because most people my age, probably even younger, has fond memories of going to Ontario Place, going to the Science Centre, because they were kind of staples that if you lived within a 3-hour drive of Toronto in elementary school or something, you'd have school field trips to these locations. Or if you were in a summer camp, you'd have a day at one of these locations. It was just standard. And, you know, we need more family-friendly places, community places people can go and build memories and, you know, bond and all that sort of stuff. And the Science Centre was freaking awesome. I loved it there because I'm a nerd. So of course I loved it there. And I've gone to it a couple times. And yeah, they just, he closed it. He just closed it. Science Centre closure unnecessary, says firms that designed it. So this is a video that I did plan on watching with you guys.
As the province searches for a temporary home for the Science Centre after its abrupt closure last week, the architecture firm that helped design the building is shedding new light on the Ford government's claims that the roof is structurally unsound. They tell us minimal repairs are needed and have even offered to pay for some of the fixes themselves.
And we'll do that.
So we're talking about like 5% of panels. They don't need to be repaired right now, but before winter. They're saying that these should be repaired. And Doug Ford's like, oh, can't be saved. Can't be, it's gone. Can't save the building. Nope, done. Just close it now. It's beyond repair. It's kind of like, you know, Doug Ford telling someone, it's like somebody goes up to him and says, oh, I twisted my ankle. And Doug Ford says, oh, you should apply for MAID. Given the state of our healthcare system that he's doing for it, though. It's the most extreme jumping the gun ever to just be like, no, this beloved institution, this beloved landmark that has been in this province for generations because some roof panels need to be fixed, close it. And not only that, the architecture firm, as we're saying, says, no, it's still sound. Like, it doesn't need to actually be closed now and repairs can get underway. It's just, and there are people, there are philanthropists out there, rich people out there who are literally willing to pay for these repairs. And he still says, fuck no, I'm closing it.
Pro bono. There's nothing standing in the way of the province at this point.
Just fix the existing Science Centre. That's the message from local leaders and community members outraged by its sudden closure.
Much-loved institutions need to be maintained and cared for.
And the firm that helped design the facility almost 55 years ago is stepping up to do just that. They tell us with less than 5% of the Science Centre roof in need of repairs, a full closure is unnecessary. The exhibit spaces themselves are under no risk.
There is precedence for this all the time for doing work in critical infrastructure spaces where buildings have to be maintained, and if you want to keep them running, you simply keep the public out of those zones and the work can continue.
Yeah, so keeping Science Center open, not a priority. Spending a gazillion bajillion Canadian dollars to get liquor into convenience stores a year before his planned schedule. That is the priority. Yeah, spending pocket change on fixing the roof of the Science Center, not a priority. Spending hundreds of millions on getting liquor into convenience stores. That's the priority.
Infrastructure Minister Kinga Surma's office tells us it is aware of the informal offers to keep the Science Centre open, but maintains the engineering report is recommending all roof panels be replaced in their entirety, which could cost $22 to $40 million and require a closure of the facility for more than 2 years.
The Science Center is a very special place. I was just totally heartbroken when I heard that abrupt closure. So we'll do what we can, but the province can't just walk away.
Toronto City Council is looking at what steps can be taken to save the beloved facility. But despite the attempts to save it, Science Centre employees are losing hope and already facing layoffs. 50 workers in food services have been given notice.
It is a very sad time, and I know that workers are heartbroken.
The government had promised there would be no immediate job losses, and workers weren't expecting to be let go so soon.
Doug Ford lied? No. Never. He lied. I just gotta take a moment here. I can't wrap my head around that. That he actually he did a lie. No, my reality is crashing in on itself at the thought that Doug Ford. What? No, that's not possible. That Doug Ford lied. Being sarcastic.
I've spoken with so many fellow workers, and the environment is dismal. Like, hardworking Ontarians are scared that they're going to lose their job at any time, that their work in creating such a special place isn't valued, that it may go to someone else. Everyone is petrified. Everyone is heartbroken.
Infrastructure Ontario is now looking for a retail or commercial space to accommodate a temporary Science Centre of up to 100,000 square feet. That's just a fifth of the size of the original building. For City News, I'm Tina Yazdian.
Yeah. And so this is Mayor Olivia Chow's statement on it. The Ontario Science Centre is a special place that sparks imagination and curiosities. Today's closure is a painful loss for the city. You can read this if you want, I guess. I've seen the wonder and joy in the faces of my grandchildren as I've taken them through the exhibits on the Ontario Science Centre and so on and so forth. So there is a motion coming next week's City Council meeting to explore the province's responsibility related to the Ontario Science Centre. I support that motion and look forward to debate at Council. So here's just Colin DeMello from Global News saying, the architectural firm that built the Ontario Science Centre releases a statement. The government's recent decision to abruptly, rashly, and permanently, that's the thing, permanently close the Ontario Science Centre was a shock. Now they are offering their services pro bono. And layoffs have begun at the Ontario Science Centre. Flashback to 2018 when he was running to be leader. I give you my word, not one single person will be laid off when I become premier, says Doug Ford during a debate. Yeah, not one. That was 50. I see what he did there. Not a single person will be laid off, but 50 people will. In just that, there's been lots of other layoffs across this province and stuff. So not one single person, but 50 individuals will, for just this one thing. So here is somebody just talking about that temporary location type thing. The Ontario government is procuring a temporary science center. I'm calling it now. This temp location will cost more than the $22 million. It will be more expensive than making short-term repairs on the real museum. I believe it. Like, he doesn't know for sure, but yeah, you're moving this facility to another one. It's going to cost more than the actual repairs itself. No doubt about it, it will. So engineers estimate the necessary roof replacement through 2029 at roughly 11.7 million. Moving the center twice will end up costing more than that, possibly several times as much. So moving it twice as into this temporary location and then to the luxury spa. The government has thrown around a number 22 million to 40 million. This is unsourced and does not match anything in the engineer's report for a 5-year fix. It's exaggerated, but again, the 5-year temporary location will cost more than 22 million. And even 22 million is high if the building's being demolished in 2029. Why replace entire roofs? The actual cost keeping the roof functional and safe would be less than 22 million. But it's the building not being demolished and the city will take it over, and how many more money being saved at all, blah, 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 blah. And then just somebody else. It's our opinion that buildings A, B, and C are currently safe for occupation until October 31st, 2024. You keep Science Center open for children all summer, and I'll personally pay for the 2024 panel remediation recommended by your engineers. Deal, or do you have a different agenda? I'll send the wire Monday, says Adam McNamara. Does Doug Ford have another agenda? This is somebody else that I follow. I see a lot of their TikToks come up, and always full of lots of information that he has up on screen so it can be verified.
Doug Ford closing the Science Center is 100% about his billionaire developer buddies. When the Science Center opened up in 1969, it was stated that it could last 100 years or up to 250 years with proper refurbishments. We now know that some of the concrete that was used isn't structurally as sound as we originally thought. But there's no reason why it should be closed now, especially because the risk to collapse is not going to happen until snowfall. On top of that, Doug Ford's own Minister of Infrastructure said that she wanted to keep the Science Center open until 2028. But 5 years ago, one of Doug Ford's billionaire developer buddies, who also bought land on the 413, just so happened to buy land across the street from the Science Center. And right after DeGasperis bought that land, Ford announced that the last stop on the new Ontario Line subway stop will be at the Science Center. The Ford government now announced that the Ontario Science Center land is going to be repurposed, with the engineering report stating that the Science Center doesn't need to be closed, it just needs to be fixed. For reference, the yellow box is the Science Center and the red box is where DeGasperis bought.
What? Are you saying that it's quite possible that one of Doug Ford's rich buddies will benefit from the closure of the Ontario Science Center, and that he would, prioritize his rich buddy's interests over that of the entire population of the province? Like the whole thing that he's doing to Ontario Place right now with the luxury spa and the moving the Ontario Place there in the first place. Again, it's all just money to his buddies. That's all it is. Nobody wants done what he's doing. Nobody. It's a way of lining the pockets of his rich buddies.
And there have also been multiple wealthy Canadians who have offered to the government to single-handedly pay for it themselves to keep the Science Center open. But all we hear from the government is crickets. And this is why Doug Ford can't govern, because when he makes a decision, the first people he thinks about are his billionaire developer buddies.
And this has been in the works for a while. So breaking, Kinga Surma let happen the exact thing that she said was going to happen. And so this is the Minister of Infrastructure.
Let's talk about what she would like to do. Okay, fine. So let's provide millions more dollars to the existing Science Center facility. Let's do that this year. You know what? Let's do that next year. And then let's do that the year after. And then let's face a systematic failure, structural failure, and then be forced to decommission the building. Now, I don't think that is the responsible move. I don't think that's the responsible.
Yeah, the responsible move would have been to actually be spending the money necessary to keep the Science Center open. Like, that's the thing. It's like, oh, we have to spend money every year to maintain the building. Yeah, that's usually how it works. That's how it works. But basically, they underfunded it. Like, they've underfunded our healthcare, like they're underfunding education. And then when it falls apart, they're like, oh, I guess there's nothing we can do. Let's just scrap the whole thing and give it to the private sector. It's really no different than what they did with the Science Center.
Move for the hardworking people at the Science Center. What we're doing, Mr. Speaker, is ensuring that Ontarians have a Science Center for the future, for the next 50 years, and we are being fiscally prudent. Thank you.
By not spending money to fix it. So this is just from T-Dot resident. Flashback, Mike Harris closed the McLaughlin Planetarium at the ROM to just save $600,000. I didn't even remember this. And I would love to go to a planetarium. I'm a nerd. So I didn't even recall that Ontario had a planetarium. And yeah, Mike Harris, horrendous Premier of Ontario. He closed it just to save $600,000, and yet I guarantee you he probably spent millions on useless things like, I don't know, getting alcohol into stores a year early. I went on quite the rant about Doug Ford recently. I clipped it. Please go check it out. It's just cutting a lot of needed programs and spending money on a lot of unnecessary things and just ballooning the budget like nobody's business. Let's see. Like, here's an example of just wasted money. And I completely forgot about this until T-Dot resident brought it back to my mind, because there's just been so many scandals around Doug Ford and so much wasted money. But I remember this now. Doug Ford's $2.5 million wasted on fake beeping bracelets could have fixed critical panels of the Ontario Science Centre roof 5 times over. This was when COVID first started. And he got these bracelets that people could wear, and they would beep if you got within 6 feet of another person who also happened to be wearing the bracelet. And he spent $2.5 million on bracelets that beep if users got too close during COVID. And that never actually happened. Not shocking. And I don't recall any of those being made and sent out to people. Just total waste. Like, when I spend $30 on something that I later realized, oh, that wasn't a good thing. You know, that I feel it. He'll spend $2.5 million of taxpayer money and just nothing. And it's more than that. Like, he spends hundreds of millions of taxpayers' money that just goes to waste and garbage and stuff. And he gets away with it. It's nothing important. But when I accidentally or impulsively spend $30 on something I don't need, that can have some severe consequences for me. So Ford Nation specifically wrote legislation to undermine Ontario Places for All's court challenge and to protect themselves and their corrupt deal from legal recourse. This sets a precedent that the government can outmaneuver any lawsuit simply by changing the law. This is not the first time Doug Ford has done this. T-Dot resident again here, just mentioning Doug Ford's government has included protection from lawsuits in at least 45 laws since 2018. A search of the Ontario e-law database shows 47 total laws containing the language proceedings barred, with 45 of those being from Ford's government. One of these, back in the day during COVID again, was a law that would prevent people from suing long-term care homes for the damages done during COVID. So if they had a loved one who suffered and died because of neglect during COVID in a long-term care home, Doug Ford passed this law so that you can sue the home because of it. Luckily, that did get overturned and people are suing the homes. That's good. But he is literally making laws to benefit his corruption. to allow him to get away with this stuff. He's literally doing that. Like, he is just writing laws for him and his rich buddies. These laws don't benefit the average person. In fact, they harm the average person because the average person then can't get any, they can't see consequences for Doug Ford's or other corporations' horrendous actions. They can't get, what's the word? I think it begins with an R. For damages done. Nothing. This is what Doug Ford is doing, and yet still so many people like to cheer him on. Disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting that he's allowed to get away with this. Let's see. This was just a one-off here. Yeah, Ontario may need to import electricity during extreme weather report. Yeah, Doug Ford has added $100 billion to Ontario's debt in 6 years, and we don't even have electricity. Alberta had to do the same thing. They suffered a blackout and stuff during a weather event, and they had to import electricity from other places. But yeah, during the heat domes and stuff like that, it's only going to get worse, and they've mishandled everything so much that we can't even, despite Ontario's ability to make electricity, we can't rely on it because it's been sold off. Oh. I'm just bad lefty saying, when I accidentally bought $20 non-alcoholic beer, I nearly cried. Yeah, when I was at the Multicultural Festival, I did an impulsive buy, and I'm really upset about it. Because the thing is I needed coasters. I like to have coasters, especially on this desk and stuff, and they are helpful for me. And the coasters I've had are all peeling and worn down, and so I was actually on the lookout for coasters, and I like supporting events because the Multicultural Festival, you have independent vendors there, craftsmen, all that sort of stuff. And I bought these really neat coasters. So they come in sets of 4, but then you can interlock them, and it's nice. It's a nice design. It's a butterfly. There we go. Yeah, and so you can have all 4 of them together kind of interlocked into a square, when there, that sort of thing. Really nice design, but then I realized when I have a liquid that's cold and it starts sweating down the side, this doesn't prevent the liquid from hitting the desk. Just hits the desk in a pattern then. So I have to keep it on top of a paper towel or something. So I enjoyed supporting local artists and stuff of that sort. This is, I really regret buying these. Despite how neat and ideally cool these would have been. But they don't actually prevent liquid from splashing on the desk. So as much as I do like the theory of these, it was a waste of money. Because now I might have to start looking for other coasters. Let's see what people are saying in the Sandbox. MIDI Doctors, cool, making content is cool. Talking about Looney Tunes 9000 and their video that is premiering at 2 p.m. tomorrow on YouTube. Go check it out. Let's see. Got my crunchy curls. Yeah, last time I went to the grocery store, it just made me think of it. Or I had to pick up a few things. I can't handle it. How much everything is going up in price still. And it's now to the point where it's like, if I'm going to shower and I'm not planning on going out for a while, I will no longer put hair product in my hair so that I can keep the hair gel and spray longer. And I hate it. Like, if I'm not planning on going out, I won't wear deodorant. And I hate it because it makes me feel gross. Because if I have a shower and I don't, like, put my hair back, braid it, and then cover it in hairspray, it frizzes. Like, it is just a frizzy mess. And I hate looking at it. I hate how it feels. It makes me feel, even though it's clean, it makes me feel unclean. And even if I'm not planning on going out, I still like to wear deodorant because it just makes me feel better. But I'm looking at the prices of these. I'm like, I can't. I can't. I can't. Because everything is just skyrocketing in price. And you know, I used to like getting like little luxuries and stuff when I was out, and now I'm looking at it like I can't. I have to cut back on everything because it just keeps on going up and up and up. And I'm like, what are we doing? Where's the revolution? Please. Oh. Marty, the Science Center shut down. Doug Ford shut it down? Yes, he did. That he did indeed. Just some talk about the horrendous debate last night. I actually ended up live tweeting it for no real reason other than entertainment for me. I thought I had some pretty banger tweets, but I get no, what's the word? Reach. I get no reach on Twitter. None. I tweet something out. I'm lucky if I get 2 likes these days. Like, it's just no reach on Twitter at all whatsoever. So all my really cool banger tweets, you have to actually go to my Twitter account to find them. And I did it in a thread type thing, but just like random stuff that I was thinking when I was watching it. Nothing really policy related, you know? But it was really bad. And then I was watching Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland cover it on their secret YouTube channel. And for me, it was just a visual thing. I thought it was hilarious because the way that they had themselves positioned on the screen with Sam in the corner, when Biden was using his hands, it actually looked like it was Sam's hand moving around. And that just reminded me of an improv game I used to do back when I was doing improv, where you would have somebody stand behind you and put their arms through you. And so you would do all the talking for the scene, but then they would do the arm movements. And so you had to try to sort of coordinate it or justify it. So if the hands did something weird, you'd have to justify it within the context of the scene and stuff. It was really fun. I used to love doing that. I love improv. But yeah, Biden needs to go. Like, it just, no. Justin Trudeau also needs to go. It's like, as I constantly have to stipulate, I'm not a fan of the Liberals. No fan of them. I prefer them over the Conservatives, no doubt about it. And for them to have a better chance of winning, Justin Trudeau needs to go. It's plain and simple as that. There's a lot of Trudeau stands or Liberal stands just saying, oh, the Conservatives keep on telling him to step down because they're afraid of him. And so they're constantly saying that he needs to step down, step down. And it's like, no, they would just do that regardless of who the leader is. Like, it being Justin Trudeau makes no matter to them. It doesn't matter who the leader is, and they'd be saying, oh, this person is so bad, they need to step down. But Justin Trudeau actually does need to step down, because, and Jagmeet Singh, as leader of the NDP, needs to step down, because, we need somebody to vote for, not just keep somebody to vote against. Judith, Ezra Levant is determined to take Trudeau out. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Trudeau. But for policy reasons. And not just policy, but also performative reasons that drive me crazy. But I do give credit where credit is due. He's very good on queer issues, queer-related issues. He's good on that. And very supportive of the queer community and actually goes out of his way. And that I appreciate. See, it's easier to say something good about some people if they do something good. But On the vast majority of things. I want him to stay down because he's not good on the vast majority of things. And I'd rather the Liberals win than the Conservatives. And just the polling and everything suggests just, again, people get tired. They get tired of the same thing over and over again. And so the Liberals aren't offering anything new. Nothing. But the Conservatives are offering something new. Like, it's all faux populism. None of it's real. But Pierre Poilievre is offering a change from the status quo, a change for what's happening. Again, all faux populism, and things are going to get much, much worse from under him. But he's at least doing that, where it's like, with the Liberals, they aren't offering people a change to what's happening. What is happening really sucks. With the cost of housing and groceries and gas and just everyday things needed to survive, just skyrocketing, and there's no plan in the works that we know of that would actually make things better. But then they go off and they do something like, oh, here's the universal dental care, but it's not. It's means tested, and only select dentists will actually take it on. And it doesn't cover all of the dental needs of the people it covers. It only covers up to a certain portion. So if you're still living with poverty and can't afford that certain portion, then it's like, what are you going to do? We need real universal health care in this country that includes all of health care. So eye care, ear care, dental care, medication, mental health, all of it, physiotherapy, all of it. Universal health care that covers all of health. Did this jump again? Bad lefty, wait you greedy bastards. Wouldn't zoned land opposite a museum science center already be worth a fortune? Well, you see, here's the thing. They mentioned briefly about the subway. So there's a new Ontario line coming into Toronto subway system that is already ballooned past its budget by billions. And the last stop of that would have been where the science center is. But the plan is now to tear down the science center and put up condos, like his developer buddies putting up condos. And so, yeah, the land will still go up in value, and his developer buddies will now have the option of buying it and putting up condos that would be at the end of this subway line, which is a selling feature for them. Bad lefty, restitution is the word I was looking for. Let's see. Looney Tunes 9000. It was hell, but hey, it was fun to see Emma drunk. Mini doctors, I have never gone to Twitter. I'm a staunch Twitter user, and I really appreciate the platform for everything it's done for me personally. Even I'm starting to reach my limit of I don't know how much more I can tolerate. Because when they made the likes private so that Elon could hide the fact that he's liking certain content that shouldn't even be allowed on the platform to begin with, and then other people, their likes to their hateful or inappropriate tweets would be hidden. Like, he was just doing that so that horrible people could be horrible and get away with it. But it was also a useful tool for somebody like me, because I would go through sometimes, oh, here's a news outlet and see what they're liking, or see what other people I follow are liking, to see, oh, that's some good information to know as well. Or if I'm trying to gauge what a person is like, go through their likes to be like, oh, so they're liking this and this and this. Okay, so this is somebody that I agree with, or, oh, this seems a little sketchy. I don't know if I agree. Like, it was a useful tool, and now we don't even have that. We can't go through people's likes. It's no longer public. Let's see if I go. I do this, and then I do this, and then I go here. That was part of a thread. MIDI doctors, because you're not on Twitter, just a couple things. I started with, gee, Biden sounds like shit. Trump comes across well-spoken in comparison. Let's see. Biden is looking at Trump like he's clipping his toenails on the bus, but is afraid if he says something, he'll get unalived. Suckers and losers is a made-up quote, is something that Donald Trump said. This debate is a dumpster fire that wished to be a real boy. Watching the debate is like watching two old men at the long-term care home demanding to stay up late enough to see the end of a made-for-TV movie about how Elon made Twitter into an X-rated failure. I'm calling it, the winner of the debate is Canada. I get it, we have issues, but this brings me perspective. The future of my country isn't dependent on two people from the seniors' home's rendition of The Odd Couple. Convicted felon calls man who won't cut his lawn to code a criminal. Biden sounds like the oldest person at a wedding taking the newlyweds aside to give them advice on how to keep their sex life alive. These were the things here. I'm just plugging my own stuff here. Yeah. The way that Biden was whispering and kind of like, hey, 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 you know, like I really had that vision of like, he's at the wedding, there's the newlyweds, and it's like, hey, over here, over here. So what you want to do to her tonight? You know, to help. That's how it's. Climate change threatens the world as we know it. Trump, the police love me. Trump, they pay billions for a hostage. Any Americans interested in becoming my hostage so we can split it 2 ways? CNN, we said we'd do live fact checking. We never said anything about posting them or calling it out during the debate. Oh, did I not add that last tweet on there? Yeah. Because apparently they did do fact checking of it, but it was posted at midnight well after the debate had ended and nobody was paying attention. But tomorrow and Sunday, I have no plans. I have all the groceries I need for the weekend. So that means the only thing I'm going to be doing is working on my book. It's all I want to do. It's all I want to do. It's all I want to focus on right now. I can't wait till I can actually talk about it. Like Twitter is still useful, as in I can get links to a lot of news and get privy to a lot of news stories that are happening that you wouldn't see in the mainstream media and stuff like that. But it is becoming, even for me, a lot more difficult to use, and I'm fairly laid back with it. Like I don't get harassed on there or anything of that sort. So it's pretty easy usage for me, but even I'm starting to reach my limit. But still, as you guys see, that's where I get most of my content from for my channel. Marty, it doesn't look good for Trudeau. I agree. Yeah, his unpopularity rate is just plummeting. Like more so like all the leaders. So Jugmeat, Pierre and Justin, their disapproval is just but Justin's is definitely on the fastest track of more people disapproving of him. And I'd much rather the Liberals in, and they stand a better chance of getting in than the NDP at the time, so. Bad Lefty. Inappropriate is doing a lot of work there. Yeah, I'm trying to guard my language a little bit. I have gotten videos demonetized. But the thing is that they'll demonetize a live stream sometimes for something that's like 10 seconds long. But when it comes to like certain content, like graphic scenes from the war or something of that sort, they never tell me what it is that caused the video to get demonetized in the first place. Just that, oh, there was content that wouldn't be appropriate for all advertisers, so it gets demonetized. And so saying what that inappropriate material is on Twitter, you don't know. You don't know. Bad Lefty. God damn it, Sandy. Now I can't unsee it. What? Biden be like, hey, you know what you two should do tonight? There's this thing. It's called a vibrator. I've heard about them. You can use mine if that helps. Just want to help out the happy couple. Suddenly getting very sexual in the Sandbox right now. Yes, he would wear the avatar shades while he's giving sex advice to newlywed couples. People who are interested in the content moderation, Rebecca Watson just released a video because YouTube is kind of thinking of doing something along the lines of community notes, and she released a really good video on that, so I recommend people go watch that. But I think that is all. I think I've covered the news stories I wanted to cover. There's still so much. Looney Tunes like it when I get talking about the sex, huh? Get a little late night, used to be Sue Johansson, Sunday night sex show with Sue Johansson. A woman who would just do a call-in show and give advice about sex that people were sometimes uncomfortable asking their doctor or something of that sort, and they could call in to be like, so I have this issue, or I'm wondering about this, or I've heard about this, or if I want to try this, how should I do it? But it was all done in a very matter-of-fact way, you know? Like she was an older lady, and it was about the information. It's one of those things like you don't know until somebody teaches you. And so she would just be very matter-of-fact in her answers. To help people when it comes to safe sex, to identify diseases or symptoms of other things. And she would go on college tours during like Frosh Week and stuff and speak at the colleges about it. And I actually saw her when I was at college. She was on the tour. But like super useful. And so what? Maybe I could become the new Sunday night sex show with Sandy's Box. Left of Sandy's Box? I don't know. But yeah. I can't wait till I can tell you guys about my book. Oh, so frustrating that I can't go into detail about it right now. So yeah. But that's where a lot of my focus will still be over the next while, is getting that done, getting the first draft like properly fully done, and getting my other book properly fully published. I just need to reach out to that writers group in town to find out like what are the next steps. It's ADHD autistic thing where it's like these little barriers to most people are not that big, but to me they're mountains. And it's like I really wish I could just have somebody hold my hand, like do this part for me, like have me sit with them as they do it, these last final steps in order for it to get done. Because I desperately just want to get that book done. And then I'm kind of curious, which book will sell better? The one that I spent years and years and years on and get a professional cover and try to do some advertising and stuff, or the one that I wrote spur of the moment in a month? I'm kind of curious. Yes, Bad Lefty, I am enjoying the process. So that's part of the reason why I want to get to it, is it is a complete and utter escape from this world. Because again, it's so visual to me. I see it so well. And it just takes me out of here. And I'm probably leaning on it a little unhealthy too much. Like those people in Star Trek who would get addicted to a holodeck. But it is just a really good escape for me, and I do enjoy working on it. So that's why I want to work on it. The editing process will be a bit much, but you know, there are some joys with the editing too, because you know the main content is out, and so now you're just cleaning things up. Like all the plot points are there, the bulk of it is there, and now you can actually just fine-tune things. So for somebody with like a little bit of OCD and ADHD and stuff like that, you get hyper-focused on that, and yeah, that's good too. It's kind of like when it comes to editing my videos, I don't mind doing that so much because I just get so hyper-focused on it. The problem is like I said, I couldn't work on the book today because if I started, I might have forgotten to do this, or I forget to eat, or I don't do other things. So if I have something planned in the evening, I can't work on my book. Just can't, because I'll end up just forgetting things, or things go too late and then I'm rushing, and yeah. Just seeing if there's anything in the sandbox for me to hit. Also, if everyone who's watching right now could just do me a huge favor, I have 3 videos that I've clipped and I put up on my main channel. I really want to get them over 100 views. So if you could just do that cheat where you open it, you click it to play, you hit the mute, you go do other stuff, I'd really appreciate it, just to get them over that 100 views. I'm probably not going to be clipping my videos as much anymore because, like I said, it's a lot of work to clip these videos for what seems like very little payoff. Like every now and then one will pick up. Like I clipped one of Doug Ford being racist, and that one got over 600 views, so that's good. But ones that I think will do well then don't do well, and the ones that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that one would do well, and yeah, it can be frustrating, and it takes up a lot of time for me to do that. So I will still continue to clip my videos, just not as much. So if you have like a segment of this that you would really like to see in a clip video, or something you want to be able to easily share with other people, please link it in the description box below, or don't link it in the description box below. That's what I do. Post it in the comment section. Let me know. I'm getting tired, I guess. So let's just start doing the unwinding thing. I was thinking, and let me know in the comment section below if you'd be interested in this, as like a little fun thing to do every now and then, especially after like a harder news day, is I love listening to music. I have like a song list on YouTube that I keep and everything of that sort. Well, what I can do is I can mute the audio so you're not hearing it, but then lip sync dance to it and see if any of you can identify the song that I am lip syncing to. So if you think that would just be like a fun little diversion from really horrible stuff or as a way to unwind, let me know in the description box and I will dance for you guys and lip sync a song and have you guess which it is. So yeah. Frodo is still somehow miraculously doing well. Eating, playing with his brothers. He still doesn't like the medication I have to give him regularly. So I do have to give him medication regularly to help with the nausea so that he does continue to eat. So any help with the ongoing vet bills for him would be greatly appreciated. I'm still blown away at how well he's doing. Like, just knock on anything resembling wood. That cat has just been my life. He is my world, and he's doing all right. So if you can help out with that, you can send me an e-transfer if you're Canadian to SandeeLovas@gmail.com, or I have a PayPal link in the description box below. You can just send money that way. If I can't thank you in that for whatever reason, because sometimes I'm not always able to, please know I truly thank you for any support you can give me. I have all of these that you can follow me on, although I'm really not all that active on Instagram and TikTok the way that I should be, or even Blue Sky. If you can, please become a patron. That helps a lot. So if my videos get demonetized or anything of that sort, I still have some sort of revenue. Like right now through the ad money I'm making on YouTube and Patreon, it's not a lot, but it's enough for a grocery trip. And every little bit helps. Thank you so much to the people who've already become patrons. I super appreciate it. And none of my babies are coming out to say hi, so you won't get to see any of my kitty cats right now. Thank you to all the mods for keeping the sandbox clean of turds. Reminder to go check out Looney Tunes 9000's video premiere tomorrow at 2 p.m. Also, right, I have an Amazon wish list. Again, anything from there can help. There are some things on there for my cats, some things for me, some things to help build my studio. I need a new chair. I don't know if you can hear it, but I notice it when I'm editing videos. It's very creaky, and the side panel arm things have started to peel and crack, and it pinches me and stuff. So I really need a new chair. So I put a new chair on my Amazon wish list, as well as other things. Again, there's some things on there that would just make my day, you know, luxury items. So anything from that also helps, linked in the description box below. And yes, before leaving, like and share. That's things that you can do that doesn't cost anything. Leave comments under all my videos. That helps in the algorithm. And yeah. Yes, I have cats that I need to feed too. Soul Life, Bittengales does this song on an instrument and makes chat guess the song. I always say stuff like 36 Chambers by Wu-Tang. Well, the thing is I don't know how many people will be able to guess my songs because I like dance music, like Euro dance music, EDM music. So you'd have to be semi-familiar with those genres. But I'm a good dancer. So you get that entertainment aspect at least. Anyway, I should call it a night. I haven't eaten dinner. I forgot. So we'll do this. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.